Sometimes I pray at night and wonder what's left for me in my future.
Wall Street didn't just gain from globalization. It has been completely reckless of the power, manipulated it, twisted it, broke the law, brought the world economy to its knees.
Sick of the struggle, corporate greed. It's all for you, none for me. Pay your debts, stay in line, planet streams, people die. I'm a man, I'm not your product. We're all owned by the bank to keep stocks up. I'm a victim, you play the predator, but I'm a citizen, and you're the senator. I'm making paper, really paper. My money ain't worth shit, it's all fake, huh? I don't got a face, I only got a voice. I hope you got the time, cause you ain't got a choice. This a banger, we're in danger. We gotta open our eyes, we gotta wake up. This is our time, can't you see the signs? Take a look around, we ain't fucking blind.
Act now, we can make a difference if we speak out. How we gonna be if we just back down? Freedom, let me speak, cause this is our town. Our town. Act now, we can make a difference if we speak out. How we gonna be if we just back down? Freedom, let me speak, cause this is our town. Our town.
So what's it gonna be? Wanna save your life? Gather in the streets. Human rights, time to occupy. Don't let them beggars slide. Our schools are shutting down over the greedy lies. We're in crisis, but we can fight this. We can occupy the globe, they won't like us. Cause we're tired, and we're fed up so much that we speak up. Believe us, they need us, now we're speaking. Holding up signs, we ain't leaving. Unemployment rise, dreams die, we ain't eating. Governments are purchased, bankers really own them. Kinda like our homes, cause we're all foreclosing. Money getting weaker, gas is getting higher. Kids, I can't feed you, nobody will hire. Now we're under pressure, man, what you gotta say now? Shove that fucking stimulus, we got no way to bail out.
Act now, we can make a difference if we speak out. How we gonna be if we just back down? Freedom, let me speak, cause this is our town. Our town. Act now, we can make a difference if we speak out. How we gonna be if we just back down? Freedom, let me speak, cause this is our town. Our town.
Police cleared people from Zuccotti Park here in New York, the birthplace of the Occupy Wall Street.
We finally have some good news about the economy.
What happens next without a symbolic center for the Occupy Wall Street movement?
Everybody act now. We can make a difference if we speak out. How we gonna be if we just back down? Freedom, let me speak, this is our town. This is our town. Now we're stressing. Unemployment line, what's a pension? All in due time, all your lives see an ending. Economy is sickening. All these people bitching, rising up and flipping. Corporate greed is vicious. All these people talking. Bet your ears are burning. Bet you're on an island where your sweet plan is turning. Now we're all affected. Tired of your greed now. Take our fucking planet, hell no. We will speak out.
Act now, we can make a difference if we speak out. How we gonna be if we just back down? Freedom, let me speak, cause this is our town. Our town. Act now, we can make a difference if we speak out. How we gonna be if we just back down? Freedom, let me speak, cause this is our town. Our town. Act now, we can make a difference if we speak out. How we gonna be if we just back down? Freedom, let me speak, cause this is our town. Our town.
I think that that's what Occupy Wall Street is really about.
Greetings, everyone. This is Commander X, and we are live. It is May 15th, 2021. We're approximately 30 minutes late, and we had to switch platforms at the last second over to my guests to be able to also hear my monologue, my intro. Anyway, thank you. Welcome, everybody. Despite all of the technical difficulties, we're here. That was a great intro, guys. You like that song? That was awesome, man. And so we're missing Mark. Is Mark coming?
Yeah, he's just on Lubbers time. So
That's all right. That's all right. He'll be along.
He woke up late. He's running to the store. He'll be here in about 10 minutes. I just got confirmation.
No problem. One of the things about X Speaks, and that's always been the case, I was talking with Steve before the show. This is actually Volume 3, guys, but it's my first attempt to do a video sort of TV version of it. We did 2 volumes of radio shows called X Speaks. And I'm going to try to find those. they're archived somewhere, and I just can't remember where. So I'll look for them and try to get them to people. There's some great interviews in there. We did an epic interview with Susie Dawson. We did a historic interview, really, with Tefpo. We got to spend 3 whole hours with him, and it was a hysterical interview because he was running all over Boston with his mobile phone from taxi to office to home and back to the taxi again. So the whole time he was literally on the move for 3 hours, and he managed to pull off a great interview and really historic stuff about Black Lives Matter and stuff like that. So I'll get that for everybody. But technically this is episode 1, volume 3. It's a very special episode. I won't be doing this type of episode in the future. It's really about me and my friends tonight. I won't lie, I'm a little bit nervous getting back in the saddle again. I'm a little bit nervous about doing media on what to me is a new format. Really, video is a whole new dimension. I've got some experience in it, so it's helped me out the last couple of days preparing for the show. And we're just going to basically hang around and talk. I do have some things I want to cover and go over today at the very beginning of the show. We'll kind of get it out of the way. And then hopefully near the end of the show, we'll have a really nice open-ended conversation about whatever the hell we want to talk about. Like I said, this show's kind of different. It's a welcome party with me and my friends supporting me because, like I said, I'm very nervous. I hope the show comes out good. I hope the stream is coming across good for everybody. I'm sorry we had to switch to YouTube at the last second. It was a strangest set of circumstances that caused it. We'll be back on Twitch next week just for everybody's information about where to find it. YouTube is going to be, generally speaking, our archival spot, and instead we'll be live streaming on Twitch starting next week. That same channel that has been already linked out. That'll do you good if you gave a follow on Twitch. That'll do you good next week because we've got some exciting stuff next week when we drop all this boohoo hanging out with X shit and we get back to real revolution and kicking the man in the teeth. And that will start next week, Saturday, every Saturday this time, except we're about a half hour late. So noontime Central Time. Whatever time it is right now, minus 30 minutes for you, is when we'll be airing from, hopefully from now on Saturday. I've got some friends with me, so I want to introduce everybody because they're superstars. First of all, I want to say I'm very proud as a new live streamer as of this moment in this very eclectic and very powerful genre of streaming. There are not many folks who have managed to be able to ingratiate themselves with such a demanding audience as we have. And that's one thing, is that the people that watch these streams, all of our streams, are incredibly intelligent people who brook no bullshit. And so as a consequence, these guys are the best of the best. So I just say Steve and Glory, and let them talk about their real quick their shows and stuff, because I'm not 100% up to speed. So talk about some of. I know you did a show last night, Steve, Shit Talk, and then you guys are together just doing a bunch of stuff. So talk about that for a second.
We've been focusing pretty heavily on national security news are revolving around the Five Eyes in the intelligence community writ large globally. A lot of stuff in this new market of total human organism surveillance through telehealth and a number of other things that
and then a lot of
Go ahead.
then a lot of on the ground stuff too, via covering protests and going to protests and organizing protests ourselves. The most recent one we did was Steve helped out with the whistleblower fest that was organized by Deepa Driver, which was absolutely amazing. And it was like the first sighting of Jeremy Hammond in years, and it
In a
was
decade.
great to see him out. And then we also helped organize a protest in LA that was held on April 11th, a little over a month ago, for the 2-year anniversary of Julian being dragged out of the Ecuadorian embassy in London and taken to Hellmarsh. So
and that
it's
was
a
real quick.
very
Let me brag on
activism
that.
it's a very
Let me brag on that
activism-oriented
for a
show
minute,
too.
Jones.
Yeah.
Because the thing on the 11th, and Lubbers can testify to this too. We had, when we started the Free Assange vigils in 2019, our only request was that we become irrelevant through other decentralized activist organizations popping up and holding their own events. And over the course of about 95 weeks, we went from 0 events in the US to over a dozen on the 11th last month. And that was part of a larger international day of action that saw events on 5 continents in 50 cities.
6?
Huh? Oh no, that's right, 6,
yeah.
because there was a couple in Africa too.
There was some in Nigeria, I think.
And I mean, that's tremendous momentum in a relatively short amount of time around activism for a person who has been more than much maligned, absolutely crucified in print, in the press, in video, like just all around. So we decided to approach media from a place of activism, not from a place of punditry or casual observation. Because of that, we're doing it a little bit different. We're pissing people off, and that makes me happy.
Yep.
All right, that was a great introduction. We have Mark Lubbers joining us. Mark Lubbers, of course, I can speak of at length. I can do my intro myself. No research necessary. Mark Lubbers is one of the founders and the current sort of anchor of Anonymous Bites Back, hands down. The largest video show on streaming having to do with Anonymous. I would say, if not the largest, one of the largest in the information activist movement, and possibly, I don't know my numbers, I don't have charts and graphs, but I would think that he is one of the hosts one of the largest political / activist streams in the world, period. Of any group or genre or movement. So, and he's quite a star, and it's a privilege and an honor to have you here, Mark. Thanks for joining me on this very special episode 1. As usual, technical difficulty fraught episode 1 of X Speaks, the world through sunglasses. Thanks for joining me, Mark.
Oh, thank you. I'm happy to be here. A little late, I guess. I mean, I'm not sure how long you guys are live already, but I'll be here with you for the...
No, we were late starting. We had to switch from Twitch to YouTube literally 5 minutes before the stream was due to go live, so we were late too. But we'll be back on Twitch again next week, and everything will be great. So, yeah, guys, this thing is working. I'm able to
Hey, just real quick, there are some people in the chat saying there is no volume. Can't hear you, X.
Okay, I'll start that monologue again, and we'll edit that last part out. Sorry, guys. I forgot that I have my... it's set up a certain way. Anyway, you can hear me now, I'm quite certain. I really apologize for that. I'll start again. I guess I should scroll back all the way to the... where I left off. I want folks to know that these guys that are here today are not here because they're epic and historic streamers. They're all of that. They're here because they're my friends, and I'm sort of nervous about this first step, if you will, into this new media, what is new to me, media. So I appreciate them being here. It's all for us today. It's all about the love, and we'll get through this. And I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. I want to begin today. Just tell you a little bit about how my morning went. This morning I went to the page, a fundraiser page, and I'm sure one of my comrades can shoot the link into chat for the Friends of X committee. And that page is really awesome. You can go there and get a lot of information about at least the amounts of money that have been raised. A lot of people chose to donate anonymously. That's for obvious reasons, right? But you can get a lot of information there. But in any case, I logged into that account for the very first time, and I sent a message to all of the kind people, many of them, who had donated over the course of the last 8 months or so, that Natalia Rivera Scott and others have been doing this project. And this project is something that I want to sort of open up now and really unbox for all of you, and especially, as I said in the email that I sent out for any of you folks who answered the call and tuned in from that email blast this morning, I especially want to speak to you, the people who generously donated on that page to Natalia. And obviously, first of all, I want to thank all of you. Your generosity may well have saved my life. And that's not putting it too lightly. So thank you, first of all, from the bottom of my heart, for your generosity. And hopefully I'm going to do this sort of first segment for you guys. And what I want to do is a couple of things. I want to, first of all, describe to you exactly, as much as I can, what happens to your money from the minute it leaves your credit card. Until the minute it becomes really what you see around me, behind me. And I think that that's a good and transparent thing to do, and it's my way of also saying thank you to you as well, by showing you what you got for your money. So when you donate to that fundraiser, first of all, here in Mexico, I am still incapable of any banking of my own. I have status, and I have my green card, which I'll show you right here. So I'm good. I can walk around and I can do normal things, but I can't bank. You have to be a permanent resident. That's a status I hope to have by the end of the year. Hopefully, if I can maintain, I'll be able to get that by the end of the year, and I'll be able to bank on my own. I've never been able to bank in Mexico. The point of me telling you that is this money does not come to me. Okay? We have had some very large donations. We've had people that have donated over $1,600. Okay? And I don't want anyone to believe that I then just go to the ATM and I can take that money out and do whatever the fuck I want with it. That's not how this works. Maybe someday it will, but by the time I can bank, I won't need the donations anymore. That money goes directly to the bank account of Natalia Rivera Scott. She's been very open about that, and I feel very open in saying that. And all of that money goes to her. She, in turn, arranges literally everything. That includes my rent, my propane, water, which all of these things need to be purchased here. You don't get your water in a pipe here. You buy it by the 1,000-gallon tank that sits on my roof. Electricity, my internet, which is fiber optic and very, very nice, and it enables me to reach out to you and be able to do a show of this sophistication. All of those bills, everything, my rent, all of it is covered. And even more than that, when Natalia began this project, they went to Guanajuato, where I was. In fact, she showed up uninvited to demand that she was going to do this project, and then came back a second time, and they moved me first into a lovely home that Natalia owned. It was her family's home. It was empty, and So I'm going to show you a picture right now. The village now, it's safe for me to tell you, because I'm not there anymore, was Nopala, if you want to look it up on a map. And it was about as rural as you could possibly get, guys. I had 10 neighbors between me and the village, and every single one of them was a 1,000-acre farm of different stuff. And I used to count my progress getting into town. It was a very long walk, many kilometers, by the farms. I was like, okay, that's the sheep's. I'm halfway there, you know. But when I get to the cows, I'm 3/4 there, you know. So what you're about to see, just imagine the rest of it. It's that rural. And then, so anyway, it should come up. So there I am. There's my boys and me, and we're in Nopala. That was the equivalent of our front yard. Xander, the direction that Xander, the black doggy of mine, is facing is our house. He's actually looking dead at our house, which isn't in the shot. And Xavi is actually looking at a small motel that was not operational at the time. That was also part of the property. The property was a horse ranch and a hotel combined. Motel, I'm sorry, combined. But I only occupied 3 rooms of a 12-room house that is in the direction of where Xander's looking. So it was a huge place with security cameras all over the place because we were so rural. And it was gated as well and fenced. As is the place I'm in now. And we'll see some video of that in a second. But that's a shot that's actually, it's on the fundraiser page as well. It's kind of redundant, but I just thought I'd show it. I didn't take a lot of media while I was there that was appropriate to show you guys, but that one's kind of iconic. And I just love the shot of my boys. They look so proud there, you know, sitting there, so. So yeah, that's Nopala. And that's really central Mexico, if you're looking for it on a map. I don't know what to tell you. It's the tiniest little dot on the map. It's a very small village, was the nearest village. We're nowhere near Nopala, actually. You had to walk. Yeah, I had to walk like 10 kilometers to get into the city. So I'm way out in the mountains there. So that is where Natalia, when she went to Guanajuato, when I had my health collapse and a lot of other issues. I was having some very serious mental illness. I've been very honest about that. A lot of severe depression, a lot of thoughts of ending it before Mother Nature ended it for me, things like that. And I've been pretty open about that. I won't want to dwell on it, but so Nat went there in the midst of that and packed us all up, literally sent hired boys to come in a pickup truck, packed us up, and moved us to that spot where we settled in, and then Natalia began work on finding us permanent housing. That was a success a bunch of months ago. I can't remember exactly, but a few months ago. And I got some home video, guys, that I shot for you all this morning. So I'm going to run that as well right now. Hi everyone. You guys want to go out and show the internet people our casa? Come on. Outside. Oh, poor Xavi. All right. There they go. Welcome everybody. This is Commander X, and this is just a little bit of home footage. I shot it this morning just before the show. And there goes Xavi enjoying our front yard. So we've got Commander X, Little X, and Tiny X. Right? So this is our casa and our backyard. I'll actually show you the outside of the casa. I'm not going to show you the inside of the casa because I didn't clean today. So that ain't happening. And you can see Xander getting his exercise, circumambulating the, hey, yeah. So it's a really nice place. And so we wanted to show, the 3 of us wanted to show you where they think of her as Auntie Nat, but Natalia has obtained for us this wonderful little casa, and the whole backyard is just gorgeous. You can see Xander he's wonderful. He can run to the other side too, and get his exercise. Xavier mostly tries to escape out of this corner, and he knows that that's bad, but he's getting away with it because Papa's distracted. Right? What are you doing up here? And so we're basically in a walled compound, and it's small, but it's very, very easy to maintain. I love it, and it's big enough. The dogs really love it. As you can see, they're really getting quite a quite a lifestyle going back here. Really, this is their yard, right? Xavier, you stay inside. No escape. No Houdinis. You be a good boy. And this compound and there's others, you can see I have neighbors there. There's just a little peek of them there. We won't spy on them, but you can sort of see them there over the top of my wall. And so all of these compounds here are in a gated community, and the gate is just right out front. I'm actually blessed. I'm very close to the gate, so it means I don't have to walk a long way to get out. And there's always 24/7 a security guard guarding that gate and letting people in one by one, checking their IDs and everything. So it's an incredibly secure place, and a place where, you know, me and the boys have built quite a lifestyle here in the last few months, since we can just barely see a little bit of my office here. Like I said, I'm not going to let you see inside because I didn't clean this week, but that's where I'll be doing my show in just a few minutes. Right there at the desk, you can see the Wi-Fi router. That's a strand of glass, fiber optic, going right to my desk. So I have good connection, and that's where I do all the Commander XC type stuff. And that's this is our little casa. So I'm gonna try to get one of all of us together. See if we can get a flat spot. Maybe we can come down here and see if we can just say hello to the internet people. Here's Xander Bay. Oh, come here, baby. Come here, baby. Don't worry. I'm never too big for Papa to pick you up. So this is Xander Bay. If anybody remembers from way back when I was doing the puppy videos and whatnot, he weighs 15 kilos now. And he was 2 kilos when we brought him home, okay, from the pound, and started streaming years ago. He's 2.5 years old now. So there is Xander. Now, come here, Zabe. And this is Tiny X, who everybody I think kind of knows already. We rescued him a year ago. And he just wants me to put him down, right? Okay? It's all fake. It's all fake. Don't believe a word of it. It's all fake. His tail is wagging while he's doing that. You can tell he's faking. So anyway, thank you everybody for letting me do a little video of my casa with you guys. Show you again what the Friends of X committee have accomplished here. It's quite amazing. We're very comfortable and very well protected, very secure. And again, as I said I'll say again on the show later on, the Friends of X committee and Natalia in particular are determined to keep this up, and so they need your help. And this is at least part of what you all got for your kind donations. Thanks again, and for letting us show you our house, and we'll see you on the air in a few minutes. I unmuted. Okay. So yeah, yeah, I'm sorry about.
Can you hear me, X?
I'm sorry about the audio, everybody. That you could hear all of us and the guests and everything chatting. I'm still perfecting this whole streaming business. But anyway, that was my little home video that I shot this morning. Again, of the casa that is Natalia herself signed a year contract. Natalia rented this place herself and then moved me in from Nupala, this time with professional movers who came, and everything was boxed up and brought here. She literally handled everything. She came and got me and my dogs and drove us in her car, and Xander Bay puked all over the back of her car. It was like a gallon of puke too. I didn't think the poor dog could hold that much liquid, man. And he puked like everywhere, and she was a total trooper about it. Not even a fucking nothing but a smile. So, you know, really gone out of their way, and this is where your money that you sent to the fund went, and where it continues to go, and where it will continue to go, because Natalia and everybody involved in helping me down here are determined to make sure that I am that me and the boys are taken care of. And I just wanted to show everybody what a lovely job they've done, what an incredible job they've done, and how literally all of your money is going to them, and this is what they're doing with it, providing me with this incredible place to be, and the ability to be able to reach out to you all through this media, through, you know, they paid special attention to things like making sure I had good internet and a way to reach out to you should I ever decide to do that. So that effort continues, everybody. I'm almost certain that the fundraiser page is in the link. So I just want to close with, again, a heartfelt thank you. I hope that people on the mailing list from the fundraiser page who already gave, I hope that was enlightening to you. If you have any questions, if you're one of the donors who did show up today from that email blast that I sent this morning, please shoot your question in chat right now, and one of my friends will read it to me and read it out. But if you have any questions about how the fundraiser works, where the money goes, who gets it, or any of that, I hope I've answered those questions, but I'm happy to clarify anything I can within the bounds of privacy and whatnot about how this works and where your money goes, and what we're all getting for that kindness that you've given me. So again, a heartfelt thanks to those of you from that page, and just to encourage everybody that these people down here, and some of them were in the movie that we're going to talk about next, the documentary movie that was made about me, about Commander X, and some of those people appear in the movie, some of the people who are part of this Friends of X group, and they have some very heartfelt things to say in the movie, but also they've been a part of it, and from the beginning of being in Mexico, these folks have made sure that I never lacked a place to stay. I never lacked a meal. Never once since I've been here have I not had a roof over my head. 3 days because I went camping. It's the only time that I've ever spent since I've been in this country without a roof over my head. Thanks to all of these folks, from the day I crossed, really from the first week after I crossed over into Mexico to now, have been incredibly supportive. The Mexican people in general, my local neighbors, everybody, very kind to me. And of course, most of them have no clue who I am or what this is all about, but I'm very blessed. I mean, I can never go home, and that's a sadness that you can never know until you're a man without a country forever. And that's something you wrap your mind around and you just settle into. But at least I'm blessed to be in a country that, in my mind, is much maligned in mainstream thought and is not at all what you folks think it is. So I hope that at least maybe today, and maybe I'll do other videos on my show. I'll take some videos in the village, and we'll talk to some Mexican folk where I do my shopping, and where the boys get their veterinarian and stuff like that. And I think that maybe give you a different idea of what Mexico is like and what it's like to be and live here. But it's thanks to these folks who do everything for me, because I can do nothing for myself. I can't even cash a check. So without these people, from the very beginning till now, I would be dead. I would be dead. There's no doubt in my mind. I would have died on the streets of Mexico City or some other place. But so please support them, because you're not giving the money to me. You're not giving it regardless of what you think of me. You're giving it to people who truly believe in what they're doing. They're good activists. They march in the streets. This isn't all they do. That's how I met them. They're regular activists, in all things being equal, and they're simply doing this because they really feel it's the right thing to do. So please, please continue to support Friends of X Committee and get the link. It's hopefully around. And definitely on my Twitter. And again, I'm sorry if I'm being redundant, but I feel it's worthy. Thank you so much, everybody who gave. The generosity made me cry, guys, and it really made me cry in a good way, and it helped me get better. It really did. It helped me to pull back from literally the brink of death. It was not all of it, but it was a huge part of it, knowing that people would root for me that strongly. In my time of need, but the need continues. It's not obviously as huge as before, but it does need constant love and attention, that fundraiser page. So keep me in your hearts, guys. You can also buy my books. It's pretty easy to do. My Twitter profile, I believe, has the link. Eventually, when I'm back on Twitch next week, that also page was all set up to lead you guys to the books, but I'm kind of discombobulated on that. But you can find a way to buy my books. You also get books for a gift. You can claim a perk on the fundraiser page. So any donation over $10, just go ahead and claim that perk. And you'll get 2 books emailed to me, to you directly within 24 hours with a nice little message from me. Thank you. We're going to try to put some more perks on there. We're trying to think of ways that we can make it work, but in the future we hope to have some other stuff that you guys, some X swag that you can pick up for helping out. This won't be forever. I think what I want to close with as a note of transparency is that I don't anticipate that I'll be needing to do this forever. I really am hopeful that I have found ways through my books and through other intellectual properties that I have, my story, that I'll eventually reach a place where I don't have to go online and really beg you guys to help me. And I don't mind doing that. I'm not saying that like I'm humble. I'm doing it, but I really work hard every day. And I have an agent in Toronto who works very hard. Ian Thornton, very famous novelist. You can look him up online. It's Ian Thornton. I think there's an R in there, Thornton or something. I don't know. Fuck. But anyway, look up Ian. I follow him on Twitter, so that's another way to find him. He's a famous novelist who took it upon himself to be my agent and to promote the story. And so hopefully by the end of the year, I will reach a point where I don't have to go online and do this. I'll still come online even more than ever and do these shows, but I won't have to come online and ask for you guys' continued support. But for the time being, and I'll keep you posted on that. We're going to talk about some of that, unboxing a little bit of the beginning of that right now in the next segment. But thank you again, and please continue to help Nat out, because these folks down here will take it out of their own pocket, guys. Okay? That's what they'll do. They'll do what they have to do to make sure that me and the boys are okay. So that's never going to fail. That's not an option anymore. So let's make it so that doesn't have to happen, guys. You know what I mean? Working folk activists in Mexico should not have to foot the bill for me out of their own pockets. And that's all I'm asking, because most of my supporters, most of you that are listening right now, are Westerners. You're in the U.S., you're in Canada, you're in Europe, and I promise you your economy is better than the economy here. So let's try to make this as easy as we can on these wonderful people who I love with all my heart. And a shout out to Natalia, a shout out to Stephanie, and a shout out to Vic if he happens to be tuned in today, and all of the other friends of X who I prefer not to name for various reasons. So that's that segment, guys. Did I get any questions from any donors, any comments from them? Anybody want to say anything in the chat? I can't read it.
Well, you have something from me. Because I just got back from the store, but You got cut off exactly when you were like introducing me, so I'm not sure if they even know I'm on air.
Okay, well, Mark Lubbers is
Make him blush, X.
Mark
Nobody cares about you, Lubbers.
I know.
Mark Lubbers is literally hands down, and I've watched him do this over the years. What's interesting is, no, I'm giving this introduction from someone who is at the very gritty beginning of all of it, and I watched Mark, scrabble from a Twitter account with, a few dozens of followers and a YouTube channel with 110 followers, and I've watched him scrabble this show into what I'm about to tell you. I mean, this Anonymous Fights Back, which is the show that Mark helped to found and hosts, currently anchors, is hands down the largest media project of its kind in Anonymous. Now, that's unarguable by the raw numbers on his YouTube page. So if anybody can dispute that, I would be glad to discuss it with you. But hands down, and as I said in my original introduction, I think it goes beyond that. I think in information activism, Anonymous Fights Back and Mark are really one of the prime outlets for information from people that people are consuming out there in this very eclectic, I'd like to point out, genre and audience. This is a very, you think and you see people like myself today for the first time, and Steve all the time, and Mark and Glory, they make it look so easy, right? That this is just we pull these shows out of our ass, but the thing is that this is they're out there doing real pro jobs, real epic jobs of delivering the content to people on a budget of like zero, and trying to cobble stuff together on the fly, and what you come up with is a product that is consumed by hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of all combined of just the talent you have on this show today, right now, of people who consume. And these are a very eclectic and demanding audience. These are not your average YouTube consumers, surfing YouTube to find videos to put them to sleep at night. These are intellectually and politically and philosophically very demanding audience, very demanding people, very smart fucking people that watch the kinds of streams that are produced by Mark at Anonymous Fights Back and Glory and Steve on their numerous shows, of which we'll talk more about. So just to sum up with Mark, I mean, he's really put out a show that has made a mark across information activism outside of Anonymous, with a very broad base of, information activists, non-information activists, conservatives, liberals, all sorts of folks have really flocked in large percentages of his audience. He's got a very dynamic demographic that watch his show, and I would state that even he could probably, I don't know the raw numbers, I don't have graphs to even prove this, but my idea is he would be on the leaderboard of just political shows, period, which is a channel. It is a category within both Twitch and YouTube, is politics. And so I think even in that genre he would be, and of course he's doing all sorts of things that are way beyond me at this point, getting this little stream of my own out. He's doing multi-streaming to various platforms for people's convenience and all that sort of thing. So it's an incredibly professional and well done show, however casual and laid back we may all seem when we're doing it. A huge amount of work, and we were joking on his show yesterday, if I'm calculating my time right, that they've now completely lost track of how many episodes they've done. It's just thousands and thousands, you know what I mean, like over 9,000, right? Amount of episodes that they've done on and many of them archived on YouTube. So they have they're not only doing this epic content and this historic content for you all, but they've been pumping it out, and long shows, great shows, nice lengthy shows. They're kind of an inspiration that way for me, to do a long show format. So Mark is actually one of the streamers. In fact, all of the streamers that are on with me right now are inspirations to me and have lent some part of how I plan on doing this show going forward. So there's Mark
say some
Lubbers.
nice things about Lubbers. I would like to say, I mean, Lubbers, for real. We like Mark so much that we let him think he still hosts ABB.
Yeah.
That's how much we like him.
Yeah. Well. He's got a firm hand on the show. I'll say that. There's no slouch by any means, but he is really can be a real quiet presence and can really let the monkeys take over the zoo. But nevertheless, I mean,
I know that's why he brought me and Jones on.
I felt the firm hand of Mark reining me in before, so he's got a control over his show. There's no doubt about it, and I think he really orchestrates it in a very quiet and understated way that people maybe don't even get. But I get, because I mean, I've been doing broadcast media since the 80s. When me and Steve were talking about that, my experience in broadcast media begins with Free Radio Santa Cruz in 1980, guys. So Free Radio Berkeley and shit like that, doing pirate FM radio. So I'm no slouch at it. The video thing is all new. Being on TV and you guys getting to see my face is fucking, different. I feel like the audience is really in my face, and actually they are, right? I mean, literally, the show begins at the end of my nose, right? So for the next segment, guys, I want to try to get as much of the kind of just the pay attention to me shit out of the way as I can, so that we get the balance of the show to just really go wild. But we can't really do a show like this without talking about, I've got a lot of my fans, a lot of my supporters, and a lot of my friends are tuned in right now. So let's talk about the movie that they did about me. And want to answer, first of all, right off the bat of the segment, there really may be questions this time around, so please start your questions now, and maybe my peeps in the chat can collect them as we go, and we'll take them all at once near the end of the segment. But please, if you've got questions about the movie, anything, please ask. Because this is, again, a kind of a moment of transparency. We want to try to get as much information as I can, especially there's a lot of people, and I understand and I get it. There's a lot of people that really want to see this and are really interested in it. And so I want to try to get your questions out. So I'm going to start that. Let me flip to the OBS real quick. Okay, so I guess just here you go, guys. I mean, if you're completely new to this concept and this idea, a studio, Toronto, Canada, is the Hollywood of Canada. That's kind of what they call it. It's where all the big Canadian, movie studios base out of. And a movie studio in Toronto came together. They actually wanted to do it, and then because Canada, especially since COVID, is in a phase where they're inclined to give grants to their movie industry to kind of keep them going and to bolster them and help them out, they actually got a grant. The really ironic thing for me about this is the movie made about me was funded almost 50% by the Canadian government. And that's just, that's how things work in Canada. But so this studio decided to make a movie about me, essentially. It's called X, The Face of Anonymous. So we'll start with that to just ease the new people who never heard about this yet into the idea, and we'll look at the trailer right now. If you guys, because I guess I've got a sound problem, if you guys can mute up when I'm doing videos for the rest of the show, make a point of it. Well, or not talk at least. All right, here we go, guys. Take a look at the.
Of course.
This is the trailer for X Speaks. For X, The Face of Anonymous. And you can go to the movie website while I'm running this trailer. If anybody wants to run the URL, it's faceofanonymous.com. and that's where you can keep posted on future updates of the movie, and I'll also try to update in future shows of X Speaks. So let's take a look at the trailer here. This document alleges that I am the notorious hacker activist known to the world as Commander X. I am Commander X.
Why did he say that?
You try to tell him to shut up. See how that works.
He told me that he was a cyber warlord.
One of the most notorious hackers online.
I've been called cyber terrorist.
His alias is Commander X. He says that Anonymous may very well be the most powerful organization on Earth.
I was fucking Batman. I had powers.
Anonymous promised an army would bring unprecedented chaos.
The internet is coming for you. Get ready.
What are they after? What damage could they do?
We're saying who's gonna fucking rule in this world and who isn't.
He was attracted to the movement because of its activist potential.
I become more and more sucked into this idea of just permanent resistance.
You have a warrant out for your arrest.
They were coming for us. With guns drawn, literally.
It was pretty obvious I was going to be dead before I was 40.
It's protest, motherfuckers. Get used to it.
Anonymous Operation Golden Eagle is the weirdest human endeavor probably in human history so far.
He does have the right to remain silent. He chooses not to exercise it.
All right. So there you go. I don't know. I don't know what to say. So anyway, the world premiere was April 29th at Hot Docs Film Festival in Toronto. Literally one of the most famous documentary film festivals in the world, and it's also coincidentally where We Are Legion, the story of the hacktivists, a movie produced by Brian Knappenberger, who you actually just saw in that trailer, is also interviewed in my movie as well. So it premiered. Of course, it was a virtual Hot Docs this year, which is unfortunate for a lot of reasons. The usual stuff didn't happen, like, you know, people appearing on stage and doing Q&As after the showings, but it did air for a month at Hot Docs. Like, it was premiered on the 29th, and then people could then buy tickets continuously for a month from the website and see it. But unfortunately, only Canadians. That's the way Hot Docs works. I'm not sure why they set it up, because it is an international film festival. I mean, if we'd have gone there in person, you could have seen it from any nationality, but they didn't allow people outside of Canada to watch it. It could have had something to do with the TiVo licensing, which you might have seen at the beginning of the trailer. So the next thing that happens now is on the 20th, 5 days from now, it's going to do a network premiere. What's called a network premiere on TiVo Network, which is a nationwide Canadian television network. And they will premiere it in a very prime time slot, coupled with a very long interview with me and the producers of the movie. And then they will begin time slotting it the rest of the month. So they'll shoehorn it into whatever time slots they normally put movies of this type. I don't know what type that is, really. I don't know if there's a type for this kind of movie. This might be actually creating a whole new genre of ridiculousness in the movie industry. But yeah, the trailer's a lot of fun. So is the movie. It's definitely not hagiographic. It doesn't make me into a saint. It shows all of my rough edges and then some. And also shows me definitely as a regular human being and not any kind of, heavenly icon to lead you all to salvation. I think it definitely brings the X thing, kind of deflates it and brings it down to real life. But it also shows some of the stuff I've done, and it's a good film. I approve. It was made with my approval. It was made with my cooperation. Gary Lang, who's the director, he's mentioned on the website itself, and Ed, the producer, Ian Thornton, of course, my agent, who also is, I think, a co-director of the movie, and he's in the trailer as well. all of them came together in a very professional way with a professional studio, and put something together very nice. I think that when I talked with Gary, I remember one thing that he said to me when I first met him. He says, "I'm taking this shit to Sundance, and I want to win awards. I want to win awards," and that to me was like impressive. I was like, the guy wants to do his job and he wants to do it really well. That's fucking cool. I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, so that's where the seriousness that these folks are taking it, and have taken it. We'll take a look real quick at I have also this is the official movie poster. So yeah, that's what the movie poster looks like. So if it's ever like if it gets a theatrical review, which is still a possibility at some point for it to do a theatrical review where it be available in theaters in certain countries. It's already been picked up for television by I think, if I may be wrong, but I think 15 countries, 15 different languages, 15 different countries that it's going to be broadcast in. Unfortunately, we don't have an announcement on the ones everybody's interested in, which is like the U.S. and Europe. But it's all kind of like foreign language countries and stuff that picked it up. They usually pick stuff like this up first because we get, the movie company gets less for it because it's subtitled and stuff. So, but anyway, so there's the movie poster. And so yeah, I mean, I'll take questions from my friends. I imagine I have questions, and anybody in the chat who has questions about this. Let me put all my guests back on the viewer here and give them the floor. But so if anybody wants to ask anything about the movie, now's your chance, and I'll talk about it going forward. I'll keep you updated, and once again, you can also update yourself by going to faceofanonymous.com to keep updated directly from the producers. So I'll take any questions.
It was a snazzy poster, man. Who did the artwork for that?
Wish we gotta have Ian on. But he was sending me the sketches. It's real art. Like it was developed by a graphic artist, and as he did the black line sketches of it to begin the project, they were literally sending me sketch after sketch to show it to me. And very transparent about that, and I thought it was amazing artwork all the way around. I mean, I hope the guy saved even the sketches, because they're as much artistic to me as the final product, which is all colored and put in there. Natalia has one, and Natalia, again, the head of the Friends of X committee, and the only copy that I had, it makes no sense for me to have one. I literally have no walls to put it on, really, to speak of, and my walls are kind of made out of glass. I don't know if you can see behind me, but you can see that's my walls, right? So, and the other thing is too, I have a bad history of not keeping good care, shit like that, because I'm still half living out of a backpack. You know what I mean? I mean, my lifestyle really hasn't completely become a lifestyle where I can be trusted with artwork. And the poster is legitimately artwork in its printed form, the way it was shipped to Natalia. It's as tall as she is. Like it's a fucking poster. You know what I mean? And so I figured Natalia, if people don't know, is an art historian. She has her own studio in Mexico City. She restores art. So I figured she'd also perfect. Yeah, she's also perfect for that reason, because she'd be perfect to be able to mount it on good poster board and put a nice little frame on it and stuff like that. I mean, she's got the equipment right there in her own little shop to be able to do that. So all the way around, it'll be treated nice, and I'll go there to her house at some point and sign it for her. She's really earned it. She's done so much and continues to do so much. So she got the poster. I'll get one at some point if I really, really want one. What I was very interested in, and I was assuming this would be a question at some point, but I'll just go ahead and drop that they have shipped me a box of DVDs. Let me tell you a neat little anecdote, because let me tell a movie anecdote. Of course, a lot of people know me completely. There's the majority, I would say a large percentage anyway, of the people who are quote-unquote fans or supporters of Commander X learned about me through the major motion picture documentary entitled We Are Legion. And what people don't know, and I'll try to get the video for this when we do another movie segment at some other point, because I have the video of it, but I was in Toronto for the world premiere. And I met with Brian Knappenberger secretly. Now, understand the dates involved. I was on the run, literally from 3 different international police agencies. God knows how many intelligence agencies. It was my run across Canada. I was on the run. And I met with Brian for the world premiere in a hotel room. And then I went on stage during the Q&A that they do for the world premiere audiences. They do 3 of them, Q&As, with Brian, myself, and Gabriella Coleman, who is a professor of media and culture at McGill University. And there's video of me standing there. Now, I couldn't talk. I couldn't speak because that would have given it all away, right? I'm in a mask and wearing a hoodie. But I pantomimed my answers to certain questions that the audience posed directly to. We want to talk to Anonymous. So I stood in for Anonymous during the world premiere Q&A of that. What a lot of people don't know is that Brian was very hospitable, and if Brian's watching this, he still probably hates me for it, and he's going to hate me even more when he hears me tell the story with such glee and a twinkle in my eyes. But he took me back to his hotel. I had drinks with him and the editor of Rolling Stone magazine, and I got very, very drunk. And then we went upstairs, and Brian wanted to order some dinner from room service. So he went downstairs to do that. And he left. I looked over. I'm sitting on the bed, and I look over, and his laptop is sitting there running with no screensaver on it. And so I pulled a thumb drive out of my backpack, and I went over there, and I stole the original, mind you, what's known as the producer's cut, which is completely different than the final version that was released. Completely different. And I still have a copy of it, guys.
It is.
And yes, it's a much better movie because it has more Commander X in it and less Sabu. And so, yeah, right. for real, right? And so I stole that from him. And then at a later date, when I determined it was appropriate, I wasn't cruel about it, but at a later date when I felt it was appropriate, I then... What are you laughing the fuck at? And I dropped it.
It was 72 hours, X.
I dropped it on Pirate Bay. So anyway.
Hey, 72 hours is a lot of time for Commander X.
So anyway, and to make a long story short, they obviously got up with Brian. He's in the movie, right? And they gave him advice, guys. And let me tell you, the lockdown they got me on. I mean, seriously, the shit that they sent me. I said, you got to let me see it, guys, once before the goddamn world premiere. I mean, literally, I have no idea what the fuck is in this thing, right? I haven't even seen a trailer yet. I've just this 1-minute teaser that they had going for the longest time, and so they arranged this shit that was password protected, copy protected, camera protected. It was, and I got exactly one view, and it turned to fairy dust. It was crazy, right? I mean, they did their homework, and I just got a gut feeling it's because, Brian said, look, dude, it's like I told Brian, and I was honest about this with Ed and Gary as well. You're filming a hacker. Don't ask me to be something I'm not. That's inauthentic. Why bother to come make a movie about me if you're not going to make a movie about the real cheese? And the real cheese would steal that shit from you and drop it on Pirate Bay when it's appropriate. That's that, guys. So they really got me on lockdown, but they finally decided to lighten up a little bit. That's the leading to the moral of my story is they've shipped me a box of DVDs. So we all know what that means, and we won't get into it so we don't scare anybody if they're watching, right? But the cat is slowly slipping out of the bag, and but it'll get out there one way or another. But it's also encouraging because one of the complaints that I think all Anons who remember back at the time when that movie came out. A huge running complaint was the horrible delay that Brian had in getting to market the DVDs, because that was everybody's final hope to be able to legitimately give Brian his cut and yet be able to easily see the movie, because it wasn't available in every single theater in the world. There's it's not that big of a deal, and neither will I be. I'll be available in some maybe, but not to everybody. So how does everybody else finally get to see it? And there was a lot of anger there, and there was a lot of stress, and that's why I dropped it, because people that had worked hard, who had risked a lot too, some people risked stuff to be in that movie, risked exposing themselves, and it just felt to me like the right thing to do. I really feel, and I know that Brian has his differences with me over this in private, but I really feel Brian made his money back and then some. It was a very popular movie. We Are Legion, guys, was included in the monthly Homeland Security Bulletin. When they come out with a monthly bulletin, a general public bulletin, every month the Homeland Security does about the current threats that face and oppose to America during that month. And I shit you fucking not, and this can be verified, that the world premiere of We Are Legion made that bulletin as a potential flashpoint to rile up the anonymous folks. You know what I mean? So it was in there. I mean, it was an incredible experience to be a part of that movie. A little bit different and a little weirder being part of this movie, since I spent the whole time trying to get them to talk about other people in the movement like Julian and everything, and they spent the whole time trying to come back to me because that's the movie they wanted to make. So it was just weird like that. And I don't want people to think that I'm thrilled about being the center of attention, but I do think it serves a purpose. It's worth seeing. I think Gary and Ed did a wonderful job with it. It was very professionally done. It probably is going to win some awards, more than likely. And, I guess I hope people will go see it. I mean, I don't want to some sort of formal movie endorsement thing, but if you want to and you can see it, I guess, and if you don't, you certainly won't break my heart. But I think it's worth watching. Having only seen it once, I think it's worth watching. So I guess I encourage everybody else. Any questions at all about it before we move on to something less about me?
Did you want to talk about if you're gonna get paid for it at all, or?
Sure. No is the answer. They when they come to do the production, as you can see from the movie, it was an incredibly elaborate affair. I was a part of a group of Mexican friends of mine who started a Seattle-style coffee house in Guanajuato, and that's where it was shot. I can say that now because I'm not there. But you can go visit Vic's Coffee House. Guanajuato is a tourist town and a university town, so you can still go there. It's still there, and it's called the Orla Cafe, Horla. And you can actually, I think they're pretty good about being in Google Maps and have some sort of young person's Instagram presence and stuff like that. I actually just, as a silent partner, threw Vic a little bit of money that I came into from my books. And that's just by way of telling you that Vic also had a hostel, and that was my safe house at the time. In order to accommodate that big of a film crew, we're talking up to from between 4 to 6 people, depending on what they were shooting that day. The crew was Mexican filmmakers who are hired by the Toronto studio. That way they didn't have to bring a greater expense to bring people here. And also, I kind of like this about Gary. He really wants to try to use domestic film crews for his movies. He's sort of famous for that. I think that's a neat policy. I think that's a neat kind of homegrown policy of his. So the crew was very large. As a consequence, they had to rent the entire hostel. There was no other way to accommodate that many people, and plus I already had one room occupied as I was living there when the movie was being shot. So they paid a decent amount of money. I don't know exactly what. I mean, we could ask Vic. I have some idea in the range of what they paid Vic for hospitality. And for also just meals and drinks at the coffee house. We had kids that served them. Every morning they got up in the hostel, and they, as if it were a hostel full of guests, and they made the breakfast for all of us and cleaned the rooms and stuff like that. They paid that, and they paid that directly to Vic. I received a small amount of money that was just absolutely necessary, guys, just to buy things like clothes. Like, you see that I'm dressed kind of nice. Xander Bay is in the movie, and I paid a decent little chunk of change to get him a haircut and a bath and make him look really nice for the movie. There were personal expenses involved. There were times when I had to feed the entire movie crew out of my pocket, or any expense that came out of my pocket was to host those folks for days and days and days and days and days. They reimbursed me for. But that is where it ends. That is where it ends. Once the production stopped, that any kind of relationship like that ends. The amounts were not incredible. We're talking thousands of dollars involved, trading hands in all of what I just described. I mean, I don't want to violate people's privacy, especially like Vic and stuff like that, to say what he got or what everybody got for the crew. But what they did get in return was red carpet hospitality treatment. We had boys on hand at all times of day to carry literally tons of equipment around. These guys showed up with tons and tons of equipment. I mean, it's literally, I'm not even joking, like tons of equipment. It was a pile high as me and like 5 meters long when they laid it out on the coffee house floor when they first got into town. And Vic was standing there next to me as they're piling it all up, bringing it out of the truck. And he's like, dude, they're really making a movie about you. And I was like, yeah, that's even more than I thought. I thought maybe a few cameras and shit and some suitcases, but that's a lot of shit, dude. And so it was a big deal, and it cost money. It cost Vic money, which he made back. He charged them. He billed them directly for as hospitality. He had a legitimate hostel that he ran during the tourist season. So that where you see me getting shot is very beautiful, but that's a commercial space, and all of those little rooms are normally have like 8 beds each in them, and they're being rented out. So he would have lost a lot of money had he not been able to build a movie company. That was just absolutely necessary. And then the only money that I got from Ed and Gary was money to reimburse expenses, both absolute in the sense that it came out of my pocket, or expenses that I just felt like, guys, this is my legacy. I want to look nice. I want to have nice clothes. When I surrender to the government, I want to be in a suit and a tie. That suit and a tie that you see me in when I surrender, it looked really nice, guys. I had a matching hat and the whole fucking bit. Blue tie. I mean, it was gorgeous. I looked fucking gorgeous. Even the ring. And so, yeah, they bought me that. They also did other things like provide transportation to the surrender point where I surrendered. That way they could film me and get my reflections on the way there. It was as a lot of you know, I had no idea how that was going to turn out. When I walked into that office, we had done a pressure campaign, an anonymous pressure campaign for weeks on the government to do the right thing when I went in that office, but we didn't know that for sure, and they could legally have easily just as well put me into handcuffs immediately, and that's what the film guys would have gotten. That would have been the end of the movie, rather than my successful surrender and my successful claim of political asylum here in Mexico. So, I mean, luckily they knew I was coming, and the decision was made as we thought it would be, as we knew it would be, expected it would be, and the decision was thumbs up. And in fact, in full disclosure, the government called me about a week ago to let me know, and they said, look, we know the movie's out. We've been getting endless questions from Canadian press, and we do mean endless, and we just want you to know it's all good. Your status remains unchanged. I'm still my technical status is humanitarian refugee. That's the program of immigration that I fall under, and that's what my card says, humanitarian refugee. But I have undisputed political asylum from the political executive branch of Mexico. The decision is made and continues to maintain that decision, because it's a decision they can revoke at any time, is the president of Mexico, the interior minister, and the foreign minister. So if anybody wants to, you can still, even to this day, look those people up. AMLO, of course, is very famous. A lot of people know the president of Mexico, his face. You can write to him, and you can say, we support what you did in granting him political asylum, and we encourage you to continue that wonderful righteous act on your part, and let Mexico know that there are still people out there watching, and they'll continue to do the right thing. But it is a periodic review. It's never permanent. Political asylum, I would have to have political asylum for the next 25 years for it to be made permanent. It's a yearly review. It's a yearly decision and choice on the part of the Mexican government to continue to protect me. So I have no doubt they will, and the people in the government I've managed to speak to are really super confident that it's not ever going to change. My status will not change, and they point out when they say that to me, my health and my age, which really work in my favor of not being ever sent back. Once being granted the asylum, not ever being sent back. Political things may come and go, political influences may come and go, administrations may come and go, but the one thing that doesn't change is I'm really old and really sick, and I would probably die from the extradition process itself, and that's a medically provable fact in court, and so it would be a tough case that way to beat. Mexico also has a very proud, tried and true tradition of granting political asylum. If you go on Wikipedia and you put into the search engine of Wikipedia political asylum list, it's a list of the relatively known people throughout history who have been granted political asylum in a foreign nation. I'm kind of proud. Prior to just recently, and I'll explain that in a second, that list began with Karl Marx and ended with me getting political asylum in Mexico, with the second to the last on the list being Evo Morales, also in Mexico. Now I looked today just before the show, and the kid from Hong Kong that took political asylum in the UK is now on the most recent receiver of political asylum. But I'm definitely on that list. You can obviously see my picture and the links and stuff like that in Wikipedia. So, the first U.S. citizen in history. And that, I think, is even as important as the first Anon and the first information activist to get political asylum, the statement that makes about information activism, about protests online. But I think even equal to that is the fact that we didn't know this until after I had surrendered, too. We went home and started researching the implications of what had just happened, and I discovered that I was, in fact, the first U.S. citizen in history that we can document. First U.S. Citizen in history to successfully claim political asylum in Mexico. And so that's pretty big deal, it would seem to me. There seems to be a lot of implications in that so far nobody's really, in the MSM or the journalist end of it, nobody's really talked a lot about. And I think because MSM, especially in America, has their heads completely stuck up the ass of the rah-rah patriotic government, and so that just makes America look really bad, right? I mean, how shitty is that, right? So, and the treatment I got here, which is completely different than an asylum seeker who's Mexican and seeking asylum in the U.S., who has to wait in the dirt or a tent, for months at a time before they'll even say hello to you. I was treated super graciously, guys. It was fucking amazing how well I was treated. It was almost embarrassing because the office that I was doing my immigration out of was chosen on purpose for being the largest office that services expatriate Americans. It services the most expatriate Americans of any office in Mexico. And that's why it was chosen, because they were most likely to have English-speaking agents there, and most likely that they would be able to understand precisely what was going on. But in the future, I had to keep going back, and it was a very onerous process. They cut me no slack, guys. In fact, a lot of people know this, but some people don't. But it was almost too onerous at first. I had to check in every week. And that meant a bus ride of about 2 hours there and 2 hours back just to go in and sign my name on a clipboard that I was still present in the country. And I had to do that every week for many months, guys. And it was very onerous, to be honest with you. And it actually started to bleed into COVID, which is when they finally reduced the restriction on me of having to check in. But they really took the process seriously. This was not a thing where I just went in and they're like, okay, sure, fine, you've got political asylum. They made me do what everybody has to do. And that included, but they always ushered me to the front of the line, which was super embarrassing. Like I could never wait in line behind all the other Americans who also had business there. They would just usher me to the front, have me sign and leave, and all these Americans are looking at me as I go down the aisle like, who the fuck is this guy? Why does he get, you know what I mean? Because you know how Americans are, right? They want their service and they want it now. They don't want to have to sit there in chairs with a little cardboard number in their hands. They never gave me a number, guys, the whole time the whole time I was going there. So it was, they treated me very graciously, very well. And I think that Mexico has done the right thing. I feel pretty confident that I'm safe here. Any other questions about the movie? I'm sorry I got distracted on that one. Sorry I went long on that one. Any other questions about the movie? And we'll just end that whole fucking thing?
I'm not seeing anything in the chat right now.
The chat's actually talking about Mexico right now. So
yeah, so I will just reiterate and make sure that I completely answered Glory's question then, and then we'll move on. So I was transparent about how it was shot, and like I said, I'm not going to get into exact detail, but we're talking thousands. It was not like tens of thousands or anything like that. It was to cover the expenses, and I was generous with myself only in the sense that I wanted to look good. It's my when are they ever going to make another fucking movie about me, guys? I mean, that's the first thought in my mind is, good God, this is going to be how history remembers me, right? So I just wanted to have nice clothes and nice stuff like that, and yes, that was provided to me in all 100% transparency was provided for me when they shot the movie, and that was it. That relationship ended. There is no further relationship between me and that production company. I don't make a dime going forward. Nothing from box offices, nothing from DVDs. That's it. That is not even allowed. It's not, ethically speaking, that would be unethical. It's a documentary, and so there is nothing past that production point where there's any kind of monetary relationship between me and the movie. If it does well, other people get rich, and if it doesn't do well, they don't get rich, but I will not see a dime of that, and I don't want to, and that's that was never part of it. It was, everything was understood from the beginning, and laid out. Everything was very precise. There were no wads of cash being handed around or anything like that. It was all very businesslike, and everything was accounted for. Paperwork has been done. Copyrights were signed over to my books and stuff like that, and that's it. So no, I'm not making any money from this point of when the question was asked to infinity, no matter how well or poorly it does, and that doesn't bother me. It's not. I'm not an issue. That was not part of the thing. So I hope that's transparent. And now, if it's cool with you guys, as per my previous formats of my shows, which on Mark's show actually people kind of like, we're going to take a break to let everybody stretch, maybe take a whiz and everything, and light a cigarette, pack a bowl, do whatever you want to do. We're all done talking about me now, so we're just going to hang out, me and my friends, and we're going to talk about what's going on in the world, whatever the fuck is the most pressing thing on us on X Speaks. It's going to really open up and be a fun show. Thanks for bearing with the beginning of it. I wanted to get that shit out of the way. We're going to do a quick music break, guys, and then we'll come back afterwards, and it'll be just us clowns, man. You never know what's going to happen. We're calling it the Fireside Chat, but it could be the Molotov Cocktail Chat. I mean, that's the way
I got both.
That's the direction it may go in. So enjoy the music, guys. Again, this show is kind of my one indulgence to myself. It's about me. So my picks, just for the record, don't mean anything other than I really like the songs. But to the one cat out there who complimented me on the way that I included music in my previous shows, and wondering if you could count on it again, I hope that we begin proving you, making you happy with this one. Enjoy, guys, and we'll be back at the end of the song.
There's a shadow hanging heavy. There's a cold chill in my bones. It's a steep road and I am weary. It's a long, long way from home. But I will not shut my eyes. No, I will not fall silent. Canary in a mine. Oh, I will, honey, I will see. I will see. There's a madness in the cavern. There's a darkness that can blind. And when it's every man for himself, no one's getting out alive. But I will not shut my eyes, no. Oh, I will not fall silent. Canary in all mine. Oh, I will. Oh, honey, I will see. I will see. Sing, sing, sing. Sing, sing, sing. Sing, 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 canary. Sing. Sing, sing, sing. Come on. Sing, sing, sing. Come on. Sing, 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 canary. Sing. Oh, I will sing. I will sing. There's a shadow hanging heavy. There's a cold chill in my bones.
Alrighty then. I hope y'all enjoyed that. I did. I know my fellow people on the can actually see me. I'm just like fucking dancing around the fucking concert. Fucking. So
Tiddles the turtle actually wanted to know what kind of style that song was.
it's folk. It's folk. It's a actually she used to tour. I remember seeing her. She used to tour coffee houses back in the day with another dude. Who wasn't her husband, and her husband isn't any of those dudes on stage either. And then they were quite famous in the Bay Area locally. Duet. They would regularly appear at coffee houses, big coffee houses, high-end coffee houses and stuff. And then she eventually broke off on her own, and now she's kind of and actually. I heard that song the very first time on the Starbucks playlist about a year ago. It was playing inside of a Starbucks, and I have an app on my computer. I can just press a button, and it'll pick it up from the speakers, and it told me what the song was. But yeah, she's a folk. Most of what they do is folk, and she's amazing. And she's so pregnant in that fucking, she's doing that live show in heels. And pregnant, which all the way around on so many different levels is impressive. You know what I mean? Very impressive voice. I love that song. So, guys, that's it. That's all I got. It's just us fucking clowns. There's so much going on in the world. I mean, I got questions now. I mean, what the fuck? Israel, Myanmar, Colombia, holy fucking shit. I mean, the world just continues to burn, I guess, while I was taking I guess we're calling it a vacation now, right? Or if we're polite,
hiatus.
Hiatus. There we go. I like that word. That's a fancy word. I like that. That's cool. That'll work.
Israel bombed the fucking AP building in Gaza. Bombed the building that housed the Associated Press, Al Jazeera, the entire staff of both of those outlets, as well as a number.
Were there Reuters people in there too, or am I mixing that up with Collateral Murder?
It might be mixed with Collateral Murder. I don't know.
Okay.
I've only seen AP and Al Jazeera. If more outlets were housed in that building, I haven't seen it yet, but I'm looking.
Well, America, no guilty. I mean, Al Jazeera was the first, one of the first buildings they bombed when they invaded Iraq, if I recall. I mean, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that building went down, and it didn't go down with a warning. As I recall, there were fucking journalists in that building.
Not once, but twice.
There were journalists in there. They were killed.
Because
they
it
were
was
killed.
one of the first places that got bombed in 1993 as well. In the first Desert Storm. They took out Al Jazeera in Baghdad, or then Iraq took out, and then on the second time around, in 2003, took out the Al Jazeera building again.
Well, I mean, I'll go looking for this
because if a war crime happens and no one's around to report it, did it really happen? Did a war crime really happen if you can't report on it? Because I don't know, man. Maybe it doesn't, and maybe I saw Stella Morris, Julian's partner, tweeted out that she had told they just got off her call with Julian, told him about bombing the press building, and in Julian's opinion, or at least what she tweeted out, was that okay, well, this is paving the way for a ground invasion.
I don't know what to say. I mean, I think that, again, this is an opportunity. I see this as an opportunity. And I would speak out to especially our anonymous audience, primarily courtesy of Mark, no doubt, bringing in all the anons to watch. I can hear.
I'm back, by the way.
I can hear somebody. I can hear myself in somebody's speakers, but I can hear an echo coming back.
If that's new, it could be me. I'm not sure. Can you test it again?
No, now it's gone. You put your headphones on probably or something. If your headphones are off, they can be loud enough actually to do it. So anyway, what I was saying is I see this as a sort of opportunity. I mean, I know that people really criticize me for the way that I try to find the silver linings in these things. But I really feel that this is an opportunity that has been presented to the Anons out there to reclaim especially the Western Anons. I'm speaking to the U.S. Anons, the Canadian Anons, the European Anons. I think this is a moment, a really sort of a stoic and could be, has the potential to be one of those epic and historic moments when Anonymous can reclaim small parts of its legacy that it has lost. And I see that in two ways right now that are hugely lacking. I'm seeing a lot of hacks, and that's great. Keep hacking the shit out of Israeli cyberspace. It's a huge part of it. But the media part of it, I should be seeing Palestinian live streams every other tweet. No shit. And you've got to convince them to set it up. You've got to help them set it up, which means to begin with, you've got to begin reaching out to Palestinians on the ground. They'll know you when they see you coming, and you'll know the right ones when you talk to them. I promise you that, because I've been there and I've done that. So, and get webcams. Rooftop webcams were the things that worked best during the last really, really huge attack, which is the big Operation Israel that's talked about in my book. And those rooftop webcams were really, really successful. There's multiple ways they could set them up. They know mostly what to do. Young kids. The young kids were going up on the roofs and setting them up. Some of people were using their phones. Some people were using actual webcams and laptops, whatever it took, but set up webcams so that we can just see the poofs of smoke coming up over the skyline of Gaza. That shit works. It's great. And then what happened was people would actually go up and sit next to the camera and give running commentary as well. Not all the time, but as they wanted to go up on their roof, take a break, smoke a cigarette, drink some coffee, and chat into the live stream. Those very basic things, no fancy content, no thought to anything, just get it going and just show posts of smoke if that's all. Even at night, just keep it going at night, because those fucking tracers and all of that missile shit, that's great content. People will eat that shit up, and they will watch those streams. The media savvy is not what it used to be, guys. And you need to step that game up. And it begins by liaisoning with Palestinians, and then it ends with getting those streams out there and making them be everywhere. That latter part is easy. The first part is the work, guys. It's the work of Anonymous. It's scary, because a lot of Anons have come into this movement and have never been in a situation like this, where you really need to think outside the box, and you need to stop worrying about what's possible and try everything. Literally just try everything and throw spaghetti noodles at the wall until something works. And this is one of those moments. I see the hackers stepping up to it, but the media thing. The second thing that I would comment on, that I think is a huge loss of legacy to what Anonymous has been and should be, and that is, you need to develop, and I think it works best in a centralized way. I'm sorry, but I really think this particular project does. But you need to develop a very specific channel, even branded up to a specific Anonymous group, like call it Anonymous, I don't know, turn the internet back on. Think of a word. But that's the idea, is you need a group, a working group, who can come up with a package, and this package must be downloadable to anybody in the world, solutions to turn the internet back on when dictators turn it off. If you watch We Are Legion, what is the apogee of that? And I was hoping the conversation would turn in this direction. I have a video for you. I want to show you something. And this is the last part of my criticism of current Anonymous, of what you're lacking, summed up in one video. You're going to like this. So bear with me, and my panelists mute up. But I have this queued up.
In kind of the lead up to the Egyptian Revolution, we would tweet on people's behalf. We would get people from Egypt who were unable to access Twitter on their own on our IRC network, and we would take reports from them and tweet them out using our account to kind of help them get the word out about what they were experiencing.
some of this shit is personal. And one of the things about the movement as a whole, when Egypt rolled around, is that Egypt broke us emotionally. Watching in real time with live feeds that we helped set up, Egyptians get massacred with machine guns. It was different, and I have never in cyber activism wept before. It's never bothered me like that. It's never been able to touch me the way Egypt touched me.
It was fucked up that we were watching people killed for no reason other than leaving their homes, that these people had every right to freedom, that they had every right to choose their government.
And then January 27th, January 28th rolls around, and the Egyptian government starts shutting down the internet. I mean, just for the whole country. The whole country. There's this fantastic traffic graph that you can see the traffic coming out of Egypt, and it's like, you know, like this. Just totally stops. And we were just shocked. I mean, we were just like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck? To think that a country would completely cut itself off as much as it was able to from the outside world was pretty unthinkable. You know, we know bad things go on in the dark places.
That's the kind of thing that could start riots. I think when Mubarak did what he did, I think it really upset people here as well as in the Middle East.
I put myself in their place, and I found myself in a desert of nothingness because he just wiped out everything that my world incorporated. That just showed me and everybody else that the same thing can happen at any time, at anywhere, in any government.
Anonymous and the people on the internet stood up and said, go fuck yourself. You want to shut down their internet? Fine. The people on the internet will show them how to turn it back on.
I have no idea. Did that go across? Did we stream it?
Yeah, it worked.
It worked?
I was able to watch it.
All right,
yeah,
all right,
yeah.
great.
I saw the trailer on there.
So look, it's a very powerful clip, and Peter Fine, I want to give a shout out to a great guy. He was really instrumental back then in bringing together. One of the people instrumental in bringing together the working group that did exactly what Mercedes Hafer says at the end of that. At that clip, you know, the people in Anonymous said, go fuck yourself to Mubarak. And we put together, in short order, a package of solutions. In fact, the real history of it is in my book. Mubarak actually shut the internet off 3 times. The first 2 times he shut it off were he showed up. The first time he just called up on the phone and told the internet providers turn it off, and they did. The second time he called up, said turn it off, and the internet providers slid back from their desks and said, no. And then they came with guns, and they said turn it off, and the internet provider people turned it off. And that's when the first 2 real hard shutdowns began. And those were hacks, and we were able to hacking crews for Anonymous were able to hack in to the internet, the national router at the national router level, and found a way to thwart the ISPs and essentially removing from them, the ISPs, the ability to turn it on or off. We took control of the network, and we also took control of the cell phone network for several days. In the process of doing that. At that point, Mubarak literally lost his temper. He literally blew his cork, and he sent a squad of soldiers down to the Mediterranean Ocean with C4, and they dynamited the only fiber optic cable going into Egypt as it comes out of the Mediterranean Ocean. That was coincidentally one of his last official acts as president, and not also coincidentally the first criminal act that he was convicted for in Egyptian court was that act of vandalism and violence against the network of Egypt. It was at that point that what Mercedes is talking about became a reality, where a working group of Anons and even some who weren't Anons but just appreciated the effort. You'd be surprised how many white hats that you write to right now will join forces with you on this particular project. Brand it up, and you need to have solutions for this ultimate cutting of the internet. And there are solutions. They're not terribly difficult solutions to come together with. It's different in time now, so I can talk about some and give hints if people want to ask questions. But it changes as time goes on because technology is advancing, so that really needs to be done anew. And you need to be ready for even that ultimate act of violence on a national network. We're seeing it in Myanmar already. We're seeing it in play in Colombia. And to be honest with you, we took the project to the ultimate limit. We were ready even for cutoffs in the United States of America, and in fact, at one point, we actually pulled the switch. We implemented an emergency because St. Louis lost internet for some time under conditions that are still incredibly suspicious during the Ferguson uprisings, and we actually had to implement Plan fucking Z, which is how do you turn it on when they've literally fucking pulled the wire out of the wall for the whole country? What do you do? And there are solutions and there are ways, and that power is incredible, and it's also very much a legacy of Anonymous. It's what made people so impressed with us as a movement despite all our obvious flaws, and made us heroes. And it's also just the right thing to do. It's important, it's the right thing to do, and we're pretty much, if anybody else could do it, they would be doing it. Only Anonymous or groups of hacktivists can get together and accomplish this task. For us, it's easy. For anybody else, there's no chance for them to affect this particular problem. And it's something that is really limited in scope, and it's part of your legacy, so reclaim that. If you do just those simple things, up your media game, and and up your game on making sure that you can keep folks connected, and reach out to Palestinians, work with them on the ground, you can stop the Israeli army. We did it once. We stopped the Kinetic Army guys with an anonymous op, and you can read about it in my book. And the whole world saw it. Lots of people saw it. I'm not the only one. Mark saw it. Everybody saw it. We did it.
Or you could do it right now.
We did it.
You could do it right now in real time too. You could. I have faith in you. I believe in you.
Yeah,
no, but we just saw in the chat too, X, that like there is a threat to the like central hub for the internet in Gaza.
Mm-hmm. And there have been like I haven't confirmed anything, but there have been sporadic like rumblings around Twitter and social media saying that the internet is down in Gaza. So I mean, I wasn't able to verify it, but there's rumblings of it. So.
Well, I did my tours of duty, so anybody who wants to criticize, and I know you guys are just joking, but anybody in chat who's thinking seriously is saying, well, X, maybe you should get busy. You know what? I did my fucking tours of duty, dude. I was doing tours of duty in ELF and ALF when most of you fuckers weren't even a wet dream in your mama's mind. So, here to tell you, all right? I was putting my life on the line, and I've already done it. It's now somebody else's turn. It's other people's turn to do that. But that's how we did it, and that's the purpose of my books, is to describe, those working groups and get down and dirty about how we got together. But we just did it believing we could do anything, or at the very least, we should try everything. You know what I mean? I mean, that was our motto, and we went at it that way because it's that important of a thing. And I really feel, I get this sense that lately Anonymous has sort of been cowed for some reason. There's a lack of confidence in believing that these extraordinary things can be done by ordinary people. But they're not so extraordinary to people who just have even above average, computer savvy and things like that. These solutions are obvious. It's just a matter of actually doing the work, And so, it's time for, there is a great anonymous Op Israel. I'm not criticizing Op Israel. They're doing a great job. It's hacker heavy and it's media light, and that balance needs to change. For that to happen, you need to reach out to Palestinians and get live streams of Gaza going. And you also need to figure out what you do when, not if, but when Israel turns the fucking lights out and the internet out in Gaza. How do you keep those, at least those live streams and at least the people tweeting? And if you can do that much, you will, you kept the lights on, you kept it going, and you'll be doing the role that Anonymous has traditionally played in this particular situation. You'll be living the legacy that came before you. It's doable by ordinary
And then
people.
let us know, please. Like, let us know so we can share it, because I mean, we're still looking. Like, I've been looking myself. I think I saw this morning that a couple of Palestinian hackers were able to get into some Israeli banks. Shared that, and like we're gonna try to at least amplify this to the best of our ability. So like, please,
yeah, and I'm
not
minimizing the hacks, because even in my books I'm very clear that the shock and awe value is a two-edged sword that's just lethal as fuck, because it cuts two ways. One, it really demoralizes and discourages and angers the government, leading to more mistakes on their part and the police or security forces. But then the second edge to that, and I think Glory and anybody who did Black Lives Matter has to agree, it is so inspiring if you got boots on the ground and these fucking weird ass masked dudes are just fucking ripping people the people you're fucking on the ground for, ripping them a new asshole in cyberspace. It's just, it's just, we've seen the effect. We've seen the unbelievable, empowering, and hope-giving effect that these shock and awe hacks have. So keep doing it. That's not the point. But there's just, I want Anons who are listening to realize that there's more depth to it. And if you go that added mile, if you go that extra mile, those two extra things that I talked about just now, think about them, and get out there and make that happen. You will find that you take it to a new level, and all of a sudden, it's not just about you bringing attention to what's going on there. It's about you stopping the Israeli army. Read my lips. Mark, are you still there? Stopping the Israeli army. Have we done it, Mark? We've done it. We've done it. Where's Mark?
and also, I also want to say, like, when that what we said yesterday on air too, like, you're talking about like one of the most advanced armies in the world, right? And when people have to throw stones back at them, right? That's an unfair deal. Like, we can't fight back against one of the most advanced armies, but when hackers or when people get behind the computers, they suddenly have a chance, right? And not just to like disable things, but to also create a lot of attention to what is going on, right? And if everyone, like Glory says too, shares these things, the entire world will see what is going on, and that people are resisting against what is happening to them.
In my book, I published messages from the Palestinians after that op. And if they don't make you cry, even if you weren't in the op, even if you're even tangentially involved in Anonymous, if you don't cry when you read letters like that, and they came in, a lot of them. I mean, we were overwhelmed literally with gratitude on the part of the Palestinians. In fact, the Anonymous operation, just however you want to argue it and what happened, was one of the only things, and they all said this sort of universally, was one of the only things that actually gave them hope that it might stop. And that's actually when it all turned in a very historic way amongst those who were planning that op into something very different. Rather than attention getting, we actually started to have conversations in IRC. Can we stop these? Can we literally stop an army? And that's when we unleashed the Hounds of Hell, and by golly, it took a lot of work. I'm not going to lie. There were dozens of people who literally lived and slept and ate op Israel for weeks at a time. That's what goes behind something like that when it reaches that epic level. But if you're willing to put that kind of work in, ordinary people can get on their computers and trump kinetic force and stop an army. We did it, and it can be done again. And I think that bears some thinking about. You know what I mean? If you think I even might be right, you really need to investigate that as an Anon, and you need to think about that and perhaps start making those couple of extra things happen, those cherry on the top. You put a cherry on the top of the sundae of what you got now with Op Israel, and you could literally take the extra step and stop Israel in its tracks, because there's only one thing they value more than taking Palestinian lives, and that's money. And Israel makes a way more significant portion of its income, its GDP, comes from more than even big Western developed countries like the U.S. or Europe, more so even than a lot more so. They rely on cyberspace, and that has a big part to do with how small they are, both geographically and population-wise. So they are very heavy dependent on the heavy side for cyberspace to make their GDP and to make their money. So shut that down, shut it all down, and they will immediately decide that killing Palestinians can wait for another time. And our goal wasn't to stop the war, it wasn't to end the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, it was to just save the people that we had met, that we had befriended, that we had. You become close to these people, man. If you do the right thing like I'm describing and you reach out to the Palestinians, you will be motivated on a level you can't even fucking imagine when you start living life even partially, even through text messaging or whatever, through their eyes. You will be moved, and you will get it done. The end thing I want people to know is it's easily doable. It's just difficult in the sense that you have to do the work. You have to have the commitment. It's really no different than street protesting at that point. It becomes a contact sport. Energy drinks, long hours of cobbling together, making media, doing whatever your expertise is, but really amping that effort up. And you can stop Israel, and that's all I can say. I mean, I don't know how many more ways to put it, but I really hope I'm provoking some thought in Op Israel operatives and anybody who's out there working in that general direction to think about it. Those are not hard things that I've described. They're not rocket science. It's not magic. We weren't gods, as I said in the movie when I was drunk and fucking, rattling on the camera. We were just ordinary people, but we were willing to believe that we could do extraordinary things through the amplification of technology, which is really what hacktivism is all about. So, I mean, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that we can do something about this.
Me too, though. Me too. I mean, like, even the Great Iron Dumbo has cracks in it. Like, simple, relatively simple rockets from Gaza are able to break through that and hit, like, what was it last night, the Ashdod,
it was a chemical weapons factory.
Yeah, a chemical weapons factory in Ashdod. Like, relatively compared to Israel's weaponry, the rockets being fired from Gaza are relatively simple, and they were able to breach the amazing, great, innovative Iron Dumbo and hit
can we be a little
imagine what, like, even more can do.
Can we be a little fair about that, though? Hopeful. Can we be a little fair about that, though? Because I actually saw some clips from that, and essentially, as a hacker, my viewpoint of that is they DDoSed the fucking dome. Is what they did. They fired this huge salvo that looked to me like several hundred rockets literally came in within half a second, and that's how they were able to breach it. It's costing them a lot of rockets to break through that fucking dome. As far as I could see, I mean, I saw some footage in there. That was literally my first thought that leapt to my mind. It's like, oh my god, they DDoSed it.
The point still stands that the Iron Dome is very much penetrable, and that you can very much break through it.
We're talking about 2 different days, though, because the like 100 or so rocket barrage was 3 days ago. This is a month after they already found vulnerabilities in the Iron Dome when the nuclear weapons manufacturing facility outside Dimona was bombed.
When you're dealing with something, it's simple physics. It's simple physics. It's simple physics. That you're never going to build something perfect that way, because you're dealing with speeds that are close to ballistic, and it's a simple matter of physics. There is nothing even laser beams, the mechanics, the mechanical object that you need to shoot at that thing. I mean, the only thing would be laser beams that might, if they can get energy weapons to tour it fast enough and track fast enough, they could maybe do it someday with lasers. But you certainly can't do it with other missiles. It's literally like, as physicists love to say, it's like trying to hit a bullet with a bullet. It's almost impossible. So it's a wonder that it gets any of them, really. I mean, at those speeds. There'll be a lot more that will penetrate through that. You know, I told the story. What was it, on Mark's show last night, or maybe in private? But for 3 years, ISIS had an app that they downloaded onto mobile phones where they could tune into the live video stream of any drone over their country. That's how they began winning. There was a 3-year period where America was actually losing the war. They couldn't figure out what the fuck was going on. And it was because the Taliban actually was able to bring down any drone feed in the country. The drones had become 100% ineffective at getting their targets. They were able to kill farmers and weddings with it, but they weren't able to actually kill any of the soldiers with these fucking things because all the soldiers had the app. And they had their own cellular system. It's a documented fact. The Taliban set up their own cell system throughout the parts of Afghanistan that they controlled. You know, it's very, very easy.
Fucked up there for a minute because you said ISIS, they were fighting the U.S.
No, Taliban. I'm sorry, Taliban.
I'm
talking about Taliban.
Yeah, I'm on board.
Taliban. My bad. I'm still thinking of the trick story I told. But no, Taliban had access. And it's just one example. I just like to use that as an example. I mean, the Taliban are incapable of making blown glass. That's also a documented fact. So you're not dealing with technologically sophisticated people. My point being is that ordinary people can have a huge effect. Ordinary people can do these extraordinary things. It has to do with the amplification of technology, not with your smarts or with any kind of special skill set or anything. You can really make a difference because they're so dependent on this technology. They literally can't live without it. The rest, you know, the people that they're fighting, like the Palestinians or the Taliban that I mentioned, they did live without it. They had none of it. They had no technology. Like I said, the Taliban couldn't make blown glass, okay, but they had the ability still to affect change with just one small piece of technology. The amplification that technology gives you really makes you a super soldier. Out there. If you're a hacktivist, even like new to it or an anon, you really are a super soldier compared to the old days of shock and awe and the old days of dissent and protest and transgressive acts and stuff like that. It's a very different world, and you can make that effect from the comfort of your own home on your keyboard. So yeah, I mean, I think
this is really something that I've been curious about, and any of you guys can answer, but have there been any advancements like an Israeli hacking team, like a pro-Israeli government hacking team since the original Op Israel?
Well, I'll answer that question in the first sentence. I've got most of them cunts blocked from the first Op, okay? So, you know, because that was my job to follow them, and I had to, and it's not my job now. So I'm not seeing that happening, but I would bet every Bitcoin, every piece of cryptocurrency that I'll ever own in my life in the future on the fact that it is happening robustly. In fact, I often tell hacktivists that are new to getting involved in fighting Israel directly that they will come for you before the cops do, before the FBI does, before anybody does, the hackers, the pro-Israeli, pro-state hackers. And they will both be government-paid ones, like military, true blue, intelligence, all that kind of thing, as well as just people who are true blue Zionists. I mean, you need to be realistic when you fight ideological warfare and information warfare. You have to be realistic in understanding your enemy. These people are also very believing and committed in what they believe. So you're facing a group of, yes, very savvy hackers in Israel, backed by Mossad, but also probably the vast number of them just plain old pro-Zionist hacktivists who are going to...
And the most thin-skinned little fucking bitch-made people on the planet. Dude, I have never seen a weaker apologist than a fucking full-throated Zionist. Like, these people, I swear to fucking God, man.
Oh, Steve, you haven't even been to Broward County, so you don't even know the worst of it.
But I've been to,
Oh my
I've been
God.
down. It's been a long time, but I've been down there. I know. I do. It's you see people like, well, number one, pretending this is a fucking conflict. This is not a fucking conflict.
It's
this is
a
a settler fucking colonizing force. This is an occupying
Actually, if you want
army.
to get completely honest about it, the most level playing field the Palestinians have right now is cyberspace. To be honest, because it will be a fairly equal war. And I will just say that, yes, Israel can expect you, Anonymous, but I would speak out to Anonymous, you should expect them. They will come directly for you. It was a massive back and forth cyber war that went on, and it's in my book. It's detailed in my book, the fact that they fought back and they will fight back this time. And it's probably the most equal playing field is the cyberspace. It's the place where you can really tip the scales and make a difference. Obviously, we can't all grab rockets and go to Gaza. I would if I could. Believe me, I'm not a pacifist. I would go over there with a shipload of rockets for them, okay, if I could. But that's not even a physical possibility for me. But you can definitely jump on your keyboard and have the same amount of difference, the same amount of impact in that cyber war. But don't kid yourself. You're beyond protest when you're in Op Israel. You're in full-blown cyber warfare. Take it seriously. Yes, I'll answer Glory's question in one word. Yes, you will face concerted and, in my opinion, deadly cyber opposition. I mean, if they can blow your computer up in your face and kill you, they'll do it. I mean, that's, bottom line.
Yeah, keep in mind, there is forced conscription there, right? So the army is, like, you're forced to get into the army there. And, like, that makes, like, everyone is there is, like, trained in the IDF, and much of it involves cyber ops, right? Because, like, they focus on, like, they're having this huge Iron Dome defense and all these systems, but to the outside world they use a lot of cyber ops to infiltrate, to hack. Have these examples like the whole Stuxnet thing in Iran, right?
Yeah.
They hacked nuclear systems.
They completely destroyed like a whole facility of centrifuges with that shit. Like,
that's all coded by these cyber military armies, and Israel was involved in that. There were traces of 3 cyber groups, including one from Israel. So you have that's an example, and like women have a conscription there too. They have to get in the army too, and
2
not
years,
all of them.
2 years minimum
Woman.
mandatory military service for every Israeli national.
Yeah. Wonder Woman was out
2 years.
here. Wonder Woman was out here sniping kids in Gaza before starring in a DC movie flick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, to speak to like kind of, I guess, both Steve's and X's points about the sensitivity of it all, I guess one thing I'm noticing since I've been paying like more attention to kind of like the Zionists since getting back into one of their havens here, it's like one thing I've noticed is that there's like this feeling of scrambling because they're losing control of the narrative that they were able to so easily manage, say a decade ago. Like they're very clearly losing at least the information war, and normal people are beginning to see through Zionist propaganda and stand in solidarity at least with Palestinians, and it's making them scramble.
LAPD
You can't
shutting
talk.
down
You
Los
don't have any
Angeles
stakes
right
in this
now because
conflict,
the
so you
fucking
can't
protests
talk.
are getting too
You don't
big.
know enough. You need to educate.
The Israeli government is very top heavy
You guys don't
too,
know.
and I've always been convinced ever since Netanyahu got in that if you cut the head of the snake off, a lot of that is going to wither back. I really feel that once Netanyahu is finally once and for all gone from power, that a lot of people in Israel will begin to roll a lot of this shit back. It's no different. And people go, well, how can that happen? How can you get this dude in here who for decades is this giant horrific warmonger? How does that even happen? Well, Donald Trump, that's how it happens. He was voted in. It happens. So, good people, a good nation. I don't think anything bad about Israel, no more than I think anything bad as a country, as a nation, as a culture, than I think about the Palestinians. But I think that this is really always going to be about the government It's always going to be, a government is always going to be something that never represents the people. Even in a true, real, good, healthy democracy, it barely represents the people. And certainly, I think Netanyahu.
What's that like? I haven't seen one yet.
I would like to see Netanyahu out, and I just feel that perhaps then the Israelis.
The guy they've got to replace him is Benny Gantz. He's currently under investigation in the ICC for war crimes.
Well, I don't know what
like,
to
this
say.
Is the problem. This is the problem when you've got an illegitimate settler state who is there to commit acts of terrorism in expansion and resource allocation. There's no such thing as a fucking level playing field or a democracy. Like, you've got multiple militant factions, each one further to the right than the next, and all of whom are working to enact a physical implementation of total supremacy over the region. That's insane. That is an insane mindset. That's not just a criminal mindset. Like, that is a monster's mentality. And that's what you're up against. You know, there's no rationalization for that. There's no having a normal conversation with anyone who believes that they were quite literally chosen by God to rule the planet as a race. Like, that's just an insane mindset. I don't know how to fuck with that. I don't. That is pure insanity to me.
Well, to me, that's been something that philosophically I've been trying to wrap my mind around for 10 years, is the slowly growing, the unbroachable cultural divides that are forming around these belief systems. And I'm just going to throw some examples out there. Please don't, let's not talk about them, but just as ideas like abortion. Okay, if you believe it's pro-life, if you're pro-life and you truly believe what they say they believe, then obviously their reaction makes sense to that situation. And then from the pro-choice, which the rest of us normal sane people are, likewise, it's likewise in a completely unintelligible, it's a completely unbroachable position. There is no gray area where we can meet in the middle and sing kumbaya. And what we're seeing again with the politics in America, the so-called left and the so-called right, the Trumpists versus the Antifa versus all of it, there is, it's not just about hatred, although that's a symptom. I see that as a symptom. Antifa obviously hates the people that they march against. The neo-Nazis obviously hate Antifa. That's a symptom. I don't see that as the point. The point is that there's no way to culturally broach something like that. There's no way to broach a divide like that. Whereas I think even growing up as a kid coming out of the 60s, there was still that sort of weird utopic hope, right? That somehow we could all reach out across it all, right? We could form a big circle of humanity. Martin Luther King's great speech, which was incredible and eloquent and, completely shit to what we've got today. I mean, it's not, there's no possible way to get to that vision in this current situation with these sort of diametric belief systems. And I could go on and on. It fractures down like glass if you just take a moment to meditate on it and think about it, how, and then even within the movement, we've talked about it before on Mark's show, within fucking Anonymous. Why should we have division in something like Anonymous? Are you fucking crazy? We're the opposition. We're the only hope of the fucking free world, I think, sometimes. And yet there's, these huge cracks even amongst us. And if you study those cracks, they are either already or are becoming those unbroachable divides, those unbreachable divides of philosophy and belief. And I don't know. I don't have an answer. I only see it, and it worries me because if we don't start thinking of ourselves as a race, as a planet, I guarantee, and I don't know how, but some way in the future, that's going to come back to bite us. If we become a planet that everybody hates everybody else, so it's just become very hateful to me. It seems like in my lifespan that I've seen this the divides maybe were papered over. That's the thing. People will argue, they'll say, well, the divides were papered over. That's true. But at least that worked, and we all had blinkers on and we didn't see it. But, it seems that now they're really raw, they're really visceral wounds, if you will, in global society, that I don't see how you breach that. How do you grab a hold of a neo-Nazi and hug him? I mean, I'm not Jesus Christ. I'm sorry. I wasn't born with that kind of fucking, wherewithal spiritually inside of myself to be able to do something like that. Even I'm putting myself in the same category as all of us with this. But where do we go from there? I guess is my question is, where is the solution that's even vaguely realistic to all that? To me, it's always come down to power. My answer has always been, when people have asked that same question to me, it comes down to power. Well, I guess the good guys are just going to have to take over and say, fuck it. You know what I mean? I mean, what else do you do? But then it's just another revolution. It's just, and all the revolutions before have just led to another revolution, which leads to another revolution. It's like an endless cycle. How do you break that and actually...
A revolution only brings you back full circle. That's all it does. It's you go around in a circle and start at the exact same point. What we need is ascension. Like we don't need to.
But for me and you, who have eaten more acid than 100 human beings should have a right to have eaten in our time. Okay, that's a fine statement, because we have those doors of perception. As it was so prophetically written years ago, we have those doors of perception thrown wide open, and so it's easy for some people, and to me that's almost like spiritual elitism. Sure, okay, it's easy for us to sit around and say that, but how do you apply that to what we see in the streets in Charlottesville? Okay, or on January 6th at the Capitol building. How do you apply that?
I was there.
How do you?
I was there.
Okay, but
yes,
how
I
do
was
you?
There.
Somebody.
On January
I mean, I'm
6th,
asking the legitimate
what
question.
It was like to be on the ground for a real-time false flag. I was there. Eyewitness.
I'm legitimately asking, though. Anybody, name anybody. Then, if that's a bad example, name another example. But you know what I'm talking about. And
I do, and I have thoughts on this.
I'm glad you do, because it's a big question of mine. I have no answers, none, not even a suggestion, because to me it's almost an implacable problem.
No, I mean it's fucking nuts, because the U.S. is the most propagandized country in the history of the existence of everything of any time. Always. We've got some competition, but we're the most propagandized, and it's from birth, and it's like created a series of traumas in like every single citizen. There's this like mild multiple personality disorder that we're all forced to exist in from childhood, where you have to behave a certain way in front of a certain group of adults, but you can behave differently in front of another group, but you can behave differently here, and you're never really certain of what kind of person you are or you can be, because you have parameters on who you're supposed to be depending on what building you're in, or like what fucking kind of shirt you're wearing. Like, it's that fucking weird. Beyond that, we're assaulted with, American exceptionalism as holy writ from the moment that we're born. So when it comes time to like acknowledge the fact that not only are we not the greatest nation on the planet, but our home lives may not have lived up to the marketing that we've been shown, the desire to place blame on anyone but your parents or your parental figures in government is enormous, and you look for a victim, or you look for your abuser or the person who's wronging you outside, and oftentimes that's the nearest brown body or the nearest black body or the nearest like other ism, competing ism, communism, is a huge fucking just punching bag in this country, even though no one can accurately define what
so
it
it's
is.
like a zeitgeist. Then it's like a worldview mass delusion. I mean,
Yeah.
I see it. I see what you're getting at. That's interesting. But
Yeah, coupled
but
with
where's
the
this?
fact that this
But
is
where's
the
the
United
solution?
States
Where's
of
this,
amnesia?
where's the solution in that though? Well, how do you undo something that vast? I mean, I can undo all the dictators and all the computer networks you want, but how do I undo somebody's fucking head? You know what I mean? I mean, how do you fix that?
I mean, to be
I mean,
quite honest,
our solution when we were with the dead was to give everybody as much acid as possible. We actually believed that was going to work. I mean, we really did in our naive 20s that if we just dosed everybody, then it would work. Maybe that's the solution. We put LSD in the water supply of all the conservative communities, right? Like we used to talk about in the motel rooms on Dead Tour, and we put the water, LSD in the water of all the conservative communities, and they wake up as fucking tree-hugging, rainbow-loving, fucking real people in the morning. I mean, I don't know.
Glory made me interim president for a little bit, and my entire platform as interim president was I was going to immediately release all political prisoners, drop charges against Julian Assange to everybody that was remotely involved in that. The next step was mandatory DMT. And then after that,
oh my God,
I was going to begin the immediate dissolving of the federal government and a peaceful transition into decentralized republics.
Oh my God, that's hysterical. That was great. I'm sorry you killed me on that one. We kind of semi-lost Glory, guys. You know what we're gonna do is, like I said, I really want to emulate Mark and the wonderful Anonymous Bites Back. We're gonna be going for a little bit minute longer. We're gonna take another great break, video break, guys. So I got a little entertainment for you. If my guests will mute up, and we'll just take a little break, and we'll be back after the clip. Enjoy, guys.
I wanna take the breath that's true. I get to you when I see nothing. I get to you to see the truth. You live your life, go in shadow. You'll come apart and you'll go flat. Some kind of night into your darkness. Colors your eyes with what's not there. Fading out to you. Strange you never knew. A stranger life comes on slowly. A stranger's heart out of home. We could Put your hands to your head. A million smiles cover your heart. Fading out to you. Strange you never knew. Fading out to you. I think it's strange you never knew. I think it's strange you never knew. Thank you.
All right, we go back. Steve, you're a star. Thank you for coming. Glory's back. Hey, Glory. I hope you got something to drink and everything. Thanks, guys, for hanging out. So this will be the last leg of it. It's been incredible conversations. I wonder if Mark is still with us, and if he's usually a good spokesman for the chat. Anybody in chat got any things to chime in with? Talk about?
I'm here, and I'm here, and someone asked actually a question. You could probably answer it best, and that is, Anthony Reyes says the issue is if you use force to get in, how do you differentiate from the oppressors you just toppled? Talking about the revolution, I guess.
Okay, repeat the question for me real quick. Say again.
So this is talking about the revolution, right? In this case, perhaps referring to the Israel situation. He says, Anthony Reyes says the issue is if you use force to get in, how do you differentiate from the oppressors you just toppled?
Well, I have a issue with your definition of force. Going into somebody's network is not by any definition. Punching you in the nose is a use of force. Punching my own fingers to my own keyboard is not that. I don't know what else to say. You can call it some other thing. You can say it's intrusive. You can say it's annoying. It's actually designed to be all of those things. But certainly,
I don't know if he
you
specifically
can't.
was referring to that though, X, because you had said that you were not a pacifist, and there was some talk about what revolution was and what that may look like. So it may have more to do with that ancillary conversation.
Yeah, let me just clarify.
hacking.
Let me just clarify my own personal position. Then I'm not a pacifist. I believe that people, on a very individual level, are sovereign and have a right to self-defense, and it grows from there. Likewise, your family, if they are of like mind, your family has a right to self-defense. Your community, your tribe, all of it, and it grows from there. And I am not going to judge either somebody else or myself if I'm actually put in that position of having to choose my life, my freedom, or some action, use of force to defend myself. I'm not going to judge anybody for that, not even myself, is what I'm saying. And throughout life, I have lived that creed and motto. Luckily, I have found ways throughout my life, through creativeness and through intelligence, to push the envelope of that definition, and push the envelope of that in transgressive action, i.e. my activities that I've acknowledged in Animal Liberation Front and Earth Liberation Front. Certainly breaking into farms and letting people's animals go, and burning down slaughterhouses that are empty of all living life forms. That's an extreme use of shock and awe, and even then, and I still stand by the fact that was not my definition of a use of force. Again, my definition of the use of force always will end at the tip of your nose. I punch you in the face. That is the example that you can then build your whole idea of my thinking off from, of what a use of force is. You got to hurt somebody, okay? And then that's a use of force. Anything else is permissible depending on how violated your humanity is. I mean, one philosopher said it best, and I don't know the name of him, but he said, when somebody threatens something that a person holds sacred, they are immune to secular judgment. All bets are off. And I've luckily throughout my life, like I said, I've been creative enough to be able to skirt the edge of that. And the things that I did, some people will claim were force, but I can still argue is not by my ideals. But am I opposed to that? If God, I don't know. I'm just thinking some crazy scenario. But if like 10 CIA agents come over that compound wall out there right now, and I happen maybe to have some way to defend myself that's a use of force, you're goddamn right, I'm gonna do what I can, okay, to preserve my life and freedom from that happening. I mean, I am not in any way fundamentally or philosophically, ethically or religiously or spiritually opposed to the use of violence in one's own defense. And that's always been my stance. I've never wavered from that in any of my statements or examples or my previous conversation that you're referencing. It all boils down to that ideal. And I've just gotten lucky that in my life, I've never been pushed to that limit. If I were a Palestinian right now, I can't say where that line would be. Who the fuck am I or any of us to sit here and pass judgment on what the reaction is right now by a Palestinian person living in the Gaza Strip at this very moment? Who are we to say, who are we to criticize? You know what I mean? So, I mean, some would even logically argue that we should actually arm them to give them a fair chance. I mean, it's such a lopsided fight, right? So, it's like bottle rockets against F-16s and shit. It's not even. It's ridiculous.
Nuclear armed nation.
So I hope that answered the man's question or the lady's question. I hope that person got it. Any more, Mark? Any other queries before we just close with a nice long ramble?
Yeah, and real quick, Anthony did say that hacking is fair game. He was referring to physical force, so you addressed that anyways, yeah.
Well, like I said, I hope, I pray. I every day, believe me, I am a good man. I'm not saying I'm a bad person just because I'm not a pacifist. I'm a good man. Any good person of conscience is going to do every fucking thing in their power to not let it come to that. You never want it to come to that. That's why I believe in hacktivism so much. Even in its most destructive forms, even in its most egregious forms, hacktivism is still both more effective or as effective and far preferable to blowing people to bits. You'll get no argument from me there. But I just want people, and I've always wanted people to be clear, though, that I'm not going to judge what another human being has to do in a world that is so entirely violent and barbaric, with such concentration of power in such the hands of a few. You can never, all bets are off in a situation like that. They made their bed. In that sense, they made their bed. If it takes pitchforks and fucking tar and feather to get them the hell out of town, then that may be what it takes. But I mean, they designed it that way, not us. We're just trying to survive. Everybody I know in the world is just trying to fucking survive. So we can't judge how people manage that, especially when you've got bombs that weigh a half a ton falling out of the sky, by the minute on you. So, I mean, I don't judge Hamas. I don't judge anybody. I don't judge anybody over there and what they're doing. I'm not there. So, whatever use of force they decide to do, God bless. I don't believe in God, but God bless them. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to be
There's
realistic.
nothing else I could really say except like,
you've got to be
like,
you've got to be real.
Why would
be
we tell them how to protest? Just don't do that. Like we're in no position here to try and tell Palestinians how to protest when they're especially considering what they're facing from the Zionist occupation right now. Like no. Yeah.
See, I love
giving as much attention to this situation as possible is really the way out, because obviously, like, we saw these attacks against the press today, right? And behind the scenes, there are all these attacks against social media accounts of people who want to speak the truth about the things which are happening in like Gaza, etc. So that shows that's what they're really scared of, right? So that is probably also their biggest weakness.
Are we really going to just go on? Are we really going to go on with this show and completely ignore the fact that Glory has this fucking shiny white Guy Fawkes mask like right there in the shot? I mean, are we not going to give her strokes for that?
Oh.
Are we not? That's fucking really cool, man. I mean, no, come on, I got to call that out. I'm sorry, but I've been staring at her since the show began, man. And we finally got her on a spotlight because she doesn't talk much, so we finally got her on the highlight there. You know, I'm trying the best I can with that.
I mean, we're just used to seeing it.
Yeah, I mean, I brought it out on some of our Slow News Day streams too while I was here, so. And I've done a whole Assange vigil wearing just the mask, so yeah, it's not particularly unique.
I think that's
especially
really cool.
when
we got to call that out.
Yeah,
though.
Especially when I'm at protests and when I'm on the ground, like there's a lot of wear and tear on it specifically because I've like sweat all over it too at protests. But I mean, yeah, it's not a particularly a novel or a rare thing for me. So, oh, okay. So he's gonna get his own mask, I'm presuming. But yeah, I mean, like, it's. I mean, what else can I say?
I was going to comment.
Anonymity.
I was going to comment when my headset went that the Guy Fawkes mask actually is almost engineered to be the most uncomfortable thing in the world. People actually think, but especially if you do it right, like the really classic way to do it is with the sunglasses first on your face and then over, so it just looks like bug lenses, through the eye slits, right? And oh my God, if you're out in anything more than 70-degree weather. On up, literally the water just pours out. I remember marching in Montreal where
No, I can't wear this in Florida.
Oh my God!
I'm sorry, I can't wear this in Florida. This is an LA at night exclusive deal, unless if I want to like blind myself with the salt water coming out of my face.
Oh, and don't ever be a hero and wear those shit once they bust out the tear gas and the rubber bullets. Just take that shit off. They will literally aim for that white mask and try to hit you. And we've got many bloodied face anon pictures too. We got a collection actually. We got an album full.
Yeah,
of
when the cops
the
set up their skirmish line, that's when I take off the mask and put on the press pass.
Yeah, and the bandana. You know what I mean? The khaki bandana.
Yeah.
Fuck A, man. But fucking what a great show, guys. I really just before we get lost in another discussion, just to say thanks. It's been great. A bunch of technical difficulties, but I'll chop it all up and put it on YouTube tonight because I'll be so excited and it will look nice, and I'll get better at this as I go. I'm sure that you guys will be available to help me again in the future. I want to just ask Steve real quick on that note. Where do we stand? Because I think next week, guys, like I said, we're going to stop talking about me and start working on the revolution again like we should be. So where do we stand on getting Keith McHenry, the founder of Food Not Bombs, on next week?
Oh, he said he's into it, just to call him later, and I haven't had like the full like 2 or 3 hours to give Keith a 5-minute phone call.
Well, there you go, folks. You have the official announcement. Then we're going to run with it until otherwise thwarted. Do remember, too, just one quick reminder, we'll be on Twitch next week, not YouTube. That was a mistake on my part setting up. But Twitch will actually be the live stream platform, and then YouTube will be the archive of the stream afterwards when I have a chance to edit it, which I'm still going to do anyway. for this first episode. But I thank everybody bearing with us. I don't know if we had too many technical problems. They seemed bigger to me than they actually probably are, but I think we got through it pretty smooth. And I just wanted to say that before we get lost in our what is our final ending of our show. Mark, anybody in chat got anything else to say? We'll take anything, comments, questions, criticisms. If they're nasty about it, ban them.
For what it's worth, I was gonna say we've had way worse technical difficulties than what transpired today. So
yeah, we've been DDoSed in the middle of a show a couple of times.
Oh, well, that could have happened. I had my URL exposed for a minute. The shot was off. All kinds of things went wrong that maybe you guys didn't even see. But it's been tough. But again, this is a new medium for me. If people might have noticed who are used to my shows that I got the rhythm right. This is the rhythm of an X show. This is what a traditional X quote-unquote podcast was always about, except with, of course, that incredible dynamic of the video thing. So it really had that flavor, just, mistakes and difficulties along the way to make it happen. But each week, I'm committed to doing it weekly, so I believe it'll get just smoother and smoother as we go. And so I appreciate everybody, especially everybody who's viewing out there. I'm sorry I can't reach out to directly. Next week I'll have the chat set up too, and I'll be able to read chat myself and be much more interactive as a host. Thank you, Mark, for sort of... Me and him have been down this route before. This is not mine and Mark's first merry-go-round ride, so he's got my back as usual on that one. Wow.
Yeah, Mark's a hit in the chat.
Steve, we talked about this.
Yeah,
we talked about this.
Unhappy.
We talked about this before, and I think now is as good a time as any for me to start what I discussed with you, my little trip down contrition path. Santa Cruz. What can you tell us? What's going on there? What is happening with the homeless people? I did see a picture today. It looks very much like a park I'm very fucking familiar with that runs along the river bottom, San Lorenzo Park. What's up?
So, I mean, there have been a number of different efforts to relocate, to shut down, to make illegal merely being homeless. The most latest one, let's see, where was it? It was just a couple of days ago, where last week we were successfully able to stop a relocation. They were going to come through and do a sweep. Enough people showed up.
Can I just ask real quick, as a Santa Cruz resident, this is on the river bottom, right? This is San Lorenzo Park. I saw a picture. It looked like San Lorenzo Park. It's right behind the courthouse.
No, but further down, like all the way down, instead of what is that? SoCal, it's like Laurel. Like several blocks down is where that particular shot was. It wasn't right behind the courthouse there.
Oh, okay.
There's a handful of different places that it got. The camps have been relocated to. They're basically trying to pass a citywide ordinance that you can't have a tent set up during daylight. Like if your house is a tent from the hours of 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., you can't have a tent up. Like first they tried to make it illegal to can't sleep outdoors at all, to camp at all. But it's a tourist town and people were like, what the fuck do you mean? I can't camp here. I'm coming here to camp because that's what you advertise. So they had to like toss that nonsense. But now what they're saying is that if you're unhoused, you have to like set a watch to have all of your shit broke down by 8 o'clock in the morning, or else you're subject to arrest and fine. there's a number of ridiculous measures.
Now,
all while
is there organized resistance among the folks there that are quote unquote unhoused? Is there some resistance? What are they doing anything about it?
Keith brought the homeless union to Santa Cruz, and so now there's an actual organized union of the unhoused that do I mean, as much as they can. There's a handful of attorneys that have filed injunctions against the city. The problem is the city of Santa Cruz is ran entirely by developers and big tech and the hospitality industry, all of whom have decided that being homeless should be a crime, and that it's certainly not what they want for their property value. So everywhere that Food Not Bombs tries to set up, they get chased off. The most recent spot that Food Not Bombs has been at, like, there have been a couple of different almost like direct confrontations with the developers. They had threatened to bring like heavy equipment in and just mow their shit down. They've now turned like that parking lot into an entire whole ass piece of performance art, and it's pretty cool. Keith is legendary, man. He's his ideas about what protesting and activism and demonstrations can and should be are like just right there. Like we think a lot alike. We do. But I mean, it's every day. It's every day. And even though like everything's getting back to being open up and shit, like the amount of people that have become unhoused in the last year has grown ridiculously, because this is one of the most expensive counties in the United States to live.
And you're not even allowed to legally. There's no campgrounds. There's legally no camping at all. It's literally in every form banned by some form of city ordinance or another. But the overlapping laws just are designed to make it completely impossible. In my book, I mentioned one overlapping law that may still even be on the books. We'll ask Keith when we get him on the show. The famous blanket law. I can remember us actually all marching in the streets in fucking blankets that we all cut holes in, walking down the street like a bunch of ragamuffins to show how ridiculous this law was. But to give folks out there that are listening, and I just want to pause for a second just to say that if you don't know anything about me, if you don't know the details of my history, I've just come home with this segment because this is how it all began for Commander X. I was a part of this movement in Santa Cruz to help and defend houseless folks, and then I took it to the next level. I took it to the cyber level, and that's when it all became a big deal and whatnot. But so this is this has been going on for 30 years. I talk about in my book the 30-year history of this conflict between bohemian and unhoused people and these very conservative rich people who just don't like it that Santa Cruz is geographically located between San Francisco and Monterey, and that's just a fact. It's a natural place to pull out and fucking smoke a fatty and get some food. I mean, that's life, and there's always going to be traffic through there. There's always going to be bohemian road traffic. You're always going to have a huge element of people who just aren't interested in getting a motel room or an apartment. They just want to go to sleep, and they do whatever business, whether it's living in Santa Cruz or just being there for a few weeks at a time. It's a broad problem. It's a diverse battle between a lot of different groups of people against this tyranny, this oligarchy that has persisted in Santa Cruz with these ridiculous laws. But imagine this, a blanket law, guys, that forbid you to cover yourself. How the blanket law came about, you got to hear the story because it really explains how stupid these fucking people are that are in charge of this city. Okay, but homeless people, judges occasionally in Santa Cruz. You can't control every judge in the world. Santa Cruz is a fairly big community now with a lot of judges. Eventually one of them's going to go rogue and start fucking you if you're truly an asshole, right? So a judge in Santa Cruz started throwing out homeless cases because they would just go in and say I wasn't actually asleep. I was just resting my eyes. And, Your Honor, and that's the honest to God's truth, I swear it on the Bible. And the judge was like, well, I have to take him at his word. He didn't break the sleeping law. Boom. And he started throwing these cases out by the dozens. And the city was like, whoa, 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 hold the fucking train. Hold on. And they went into like, dude, they take this shit like seriously. It's like emergency session of the city council. Right, and I've been in these city councils. Steve will vouch for the fact I've given them hell. I've been hauled out of there in cuffs, for yelling at them people. It doesn't do any good. They're just too fucking rich, and the only thing they understand is protest. But so they made the law during certain hours of the night you could not cover yourself with a blanket. So it didn't matter if your eyes were open or closed. It didn't matter if you were asleep. The law stated the same exact fine. Persisted, but instead the violation was changed to the fact that you had covered yourself with anything that could classify as a blanket or bedding. And so this is how ridiculous the battle became in Santa Cruz, and that's a decade-old story. I mean, this has literally been persisting for 30 years. I could go back to the 80s and describe to you how it was then. It was different, but the same. The 90s, and now the 2000s, the same thing. And so many people have died from this. There's an organization there that keeps a list of every person who dies from this conflict that is unhoused. And every year they have a ceremony at one of the only local homeless shelter, and they read out the names. And guys, it takes like a fucking half hour. Or more, an hour or something. It's a long fucking time. They're reading a long goddamn time. This isn't like a handful of people that die from this persecution, this pogrom, as I've called it in my book, against the unhoused folks in Santa Cruz. So it's no real amazing thing when you start to think about it that I would eventually get sucked up into that, and just because I was also involved at the same time with the burgeoning cyber resistance, it just seemed like a good fit, and it turned out not to be true. But so we brought down the county website for 30 minutes. We announced it ahead of time in a press release, which was another bad idea because the cops did not take kindly to it, and the journalists did not keep their word and not report us to the police. And one station in particular, if you guys all want to know, ABC, dropped a dime to the FBI and the Santa Cruz sheriffs. The minute they got my press release. Everybody else kept their mouth shut and waited for the attack to take place. When I walked out of the Starbucks on Pacific Avenue after conducting and orchestrating the attack, the chief of police was back to me being interviewed by no other than ABC News. As I then sidled down literally across the street, like 5 meters away. And I'm like, okay, it's time to get the fuck out of here. That worked, and all of Santa Cruz got their panties in a bunch. Oh my God, big cyber attack, but it was so stupid. It was 100 anons who fired an LOIC at the county front web page. It was nothing. It was true protest in the sense that nobody used any we didn't use any cheats. We didn't use any tools to bring the site down. We actually all just fired up cannons and shot at the site, as we say in the business. So it was a true blue protest in that sense. It was probably one of the purest forms of cyber protest, one of the purest causes ever in cyber protest, and that's how I became Commander X, homeless hacker. It was not me being homeless, it was me standing up for the homeless folks and picking up that, what was at the time a very new tool. It was kind of like picking up a rocket launcher and you have no idea, you've never read the instruction manual. How to do it. It was kind of that kind of a thing because I had no idea what I was wielding and how serious they would take it. The FBI, the multi-million-dollar manhunt, everything that sprung out of that was a complete shock to me when I did that day and walked out of that coffee house. I really didn't think they'd take it that seriously. It was so obviously protest. Like I said, for such an obviously reasonable fucking cause, whether you're on the side of the homeless people in Santa Cruz or not, you've got to admit that there's a reasonable divide of opinion there. It's a political thing. It's a protest, right? There's no, how can you deny that? There are people protesting on both sides of it. Those guys marching around with their stupid little group, the We're Gonna Save Santa Cruz group, that are all the rich people that want to run the homeless people out, and they protest too. So it's all fair game. And I really felt that when I did that, I didn't think it was going to become the big deal that it became. I didn't think that, and that in turn, of course, led to blowing up this whole persona, which was just who I was online at the time. It wasn't any big deal. It was no more than any of you guys having a name out there that you work in Anonymous on. I was just another cat. And it really blew up from that. Did I make a mistake? Is it time to admit that after all these years? Perhaps. I don't know. It hurt a lot of people. It was real messy. And obviously it completely destroyed my life. That single decision literally cost me everything. And it's why I'm here in Mexico now. I mean, it led to that. But that is how serious that situation is there. That's the kind of life and death decisions that a lot of us activists were making and still continue to make from what Steve has just reported to us on the ground in this battle. This is a true war, and it's a war of class extinction. And that's what it is. And these people are fighting for their lives. And to this day, after 30 fucking years. So I did what I did. I guess if I owe people in Santa Cruz or anywhere in the world an apology, I think at this point, after what I've been through in this particular episode, what it means to me and my friends with me, okay, I'll own that. I'll apologize, guys. If I upset anybody, and if I hurt anybody and caused anybody any anguish in Santa Cruz over what happened that day, but I won't deny one thing. It felt fucking good, guys, to stand on you guys' behalf, to stand. I was living in a tent too at the time, guys. And I stood and I did what I had in my ability to do. And I apologized to those it brought harm to and misfortune and all of that. And I know that that's been a criticism for years. I have never addressed it. It's one that I'm willing to own. And I'm going to try to make it up to you guys. We're going to start next week by having Keith on. And like I said, this is the end of the Me show. I just wanted to do one to get back in the saddle with my friends. But starting next week, we're going to start the revolution again. And we're going to start it with Santa Cruz this time around. And I'm going to walk the path of contrition. And I'm going to do the right thing and try to see what I can do to help. So if there's anybody that sees this video or hears about this show or gets to, or is even by the grace of God watching it now, who is from those encampments or involved with that encampment, for what I am worth, for what I have to offer, help is on its way. We'll do what we can, and we'll make it a regular feature, and we'll shine the light that I gained, I guess, in a lot of people's minds at their expense. So, and that's the best I can do, guys. So we're going to take it from there, and we're going to start kicking their teeth in. We're going to start calling names and doxing and having out with these oligarchs that run Santa Cruz, and we'll get into the nitty-gritty detail. And perhaps it may be boring. I want to say to my international fans and to the people all over the world that tune into, hopefully will tune into my shows even more so in the future. Bear with it, guys, and listen. Just listen to what one very substantially large group of people are going through in a class war that's actually taking place in countless cities across America. And you've seen the videos. When Trump was in, you've seen the videos, even since Biden's in, of the bulldozings of encampments. So many cities, I could sit here and probably read a list for the next 5 minutes of cities where they have done these kinds of pogroms to one extent or another. Santa Cruz is my home, and that's where it happened, where I saw it. It's one of my homes that and I feel like I'm still a part of that community. So to people in Santa Cruz, if they can ever hear this message or see this video, for what it's worth, I'm coming back. I'm coming home. I can't physically ever come home, but I'm coming home. Expect me. Expect me, and we'll make it a part of this show. We'll make it a part of this show, and we'll get some of you guys on. I don't want just the big muckety mucks in the movement who, God love them, I give them big sweaty kisses, Steve or Keith or all those guys. We want to get you guys right out of the fucking tents, man. I'll have them bring a goddamn mobile phone down there. We'll figure out a way. Me and Steve will work on it, and we'll show these fucking people how you live and what you're dealing with. We'll show the raids in real time on this show. Or recorded and or real time, and we'll get this story to you, and it'll be a regular feature. But I just encourage folks who this doesn't directly affect to still pay attention and realize that this is a nationwide problem in the United States of America. And I'll tell you that it is an American problem. I live in Mexico, guys. They don't bulldoze camps down here. Swear to God.
It's true.
Swear to fucking God, dude. I've been all over. And I've seen the homeless camps. What few there are, by the way. And mostly just in the big cities. And they don't do it that way. If they need to move them, they go in there, they ask them politely, they even help them with pickup trucks. I mean, the whole community pitches in and they just put them somewhere else. And that's the way it's dealt with. It's not dealt with by police with machine guns and tear gas and rubber bullets and all the shit. So we're going to get the guys out of it.
Fucking heavy equipment, bulldozers and shit.
Yeah.
That's what they did last time.
Well, next time they do this, let's see if we can't get the world watching. That's the thing I'm trying to say. So we'll use this show and my Twitter account, and my Twitter account, which I've taken back over, and we'll give that issue as much effort as we can give anything else that I'm giving effort to. It'll be a feature, and I just encourage other folks to support any way they can. Who it doesn't directly affect. Don't try not to be bored by the content. Try to really think about these details. Some of it might be boring because I really want to get dirty. There's some of these politicians. I think we need to start calling them out on national TV. We need to start taking names and taking prisoners, man, and not just talking about this in some sort of vague way like bad government. But who the fuck is actually doing this shit? What are their names? What do they look like? How did they get into this position to be able to do this to people? And so, we'll get dirty with them, guys. We'll use my platform. That's what it's here for. I'm here for you guys. Again, historically, can only say that I did what I felt was right at the time. For what I knew with a very visceral way that you cannot deny I was amongst you. Nobody can deny I was amongst you. I was arrested so many fucking times and taken to that stinky ass county jail. I can't even count. Okay. And all I can say is, I'm back now. I'm doing the right thing by it now, and that's the best I can do. I made the choices I made. I apologize if it hurt anybody because that was never my intent. My intent was always to help and make things better and not to hurt. And that's that. That's the story. You know what I mean? So that when you hear in the future about Santa Cruz and us talking about it, we won't keep going over this. But if you got to read the books to truly understand that is exactly where it started. There's a whole chapter describing all the beautiful things about Santa Cruz, the beautiful people that lived there, the beautiful places I lived in Santa Cruz. The whole first chapter of my first book is about Santa Cruz. So
and don't get me wrong, like I shit on Santa Cruz a lot because it's a festering hellhole of neoliberal terror. But
it shouldn't be that way, though. It shouldn't be that way, though. It could be paradise, and we both know it. It's been that way before for brief moments when maybe for just a moment, some cool person makes it all go away for a second, and Santa Cruz blossoms, and there's street musicians everywhere, and everybody's just full. It was literally a 24-hour-a-day party. When I first started going there as a kid, following the Grateful Dead, that was how I got introduced to Santa Cruz, and it was always a blast. It can be a blast again. Aww. It can be everything that it should be, and I've seen Santa Cruz in its cultural glory, or at least whatever cultural glory it ever had in my lifetime. I saw it. I was there on those streets, and it would bring joy to my heart to get off that tour and go to Santa Cruz. I'm serious. It was like Oh my God! Oh my God! I can't believe I'm living this lifestyle where I just spent, I just spent 100 days of hard ass fucking touring, and now I get to land here and lay on this beach to fucking rest for the next one. And it was just Santa Cruz in its time. Was everything it could be, and it could be again. But then the rich really came in and took over, as they did in so many really delightful places in the world. It got gentrified. There's places like in Brooklyn and stuff like that where things that used to be so cool in the old days when we were kids, Steve, and now they're just ruined by this incredible excess of wealth that we have in America. This incredible top side, this 1% that we've all talked about for endless years now too. And that's where it really all comes down to. The 1% don't like everybody sweeping on their fucking park. And that's that. It's just a matter of we don't like it. It's not aesthetically pleasing to us, so fuck you. And that's not an acceptable thing in a free, open, and truly democratic society. It's beyond unacceptable, and it's life or death when people start adding up on a list. When people start dying from this, then it becomes, like I said, it's borderlines warfare. It borderlines on the edge of protest and possibly getting into a class pogrom or a class warfare that is, like, as I've said so much, it takes it to a new level. You've got to understand that if you're going to wage war on people, people are going to then have the right to self-defense. And I really felt like the hack that I did on Santa Cruz County was self-defense. I felt a part of it. I felt a part of everything that was happening there. And to me, it was I was standing up and trying to do the best I could, the only knowledge that I had to defend us all. So they were really scared by it, guys. Mm-hmm. They were really scared, you got to admit. They were really fucking upset. I've got the headlines still. I've got photographs of the newspaper that came out that day. It was headline news in Santa Cruz on the Santa Cruz Sentinel. I mean, it was they were like, wow.
And when you can spread word of that shit, it helps. And I mean, I can't speak to Santa Cruz, but what I can speak to is the Echo Park encampment in Los Angeles, where even though it did end up getting swept, we were able to hold off a definite sweep for at least like 3 or 4 days, almost purely because of the fact that we were able to spread word of it so much. Like, so many people were there live streaming kind of the police pushing out the activists, or live streaming the homeless people themselves, like rising up and organizing around protecting this encampment at Echo Park Lake. And it got to a point where it was trending on Twitter, and Echo Park Rising became its own like tweet storm almost. So it at the end of the day, that's the whole thing around preventing the Echo Park encampment from being swept failed, because it did get swept in the end. But it helped at least that we were able to organize around it and just fucking band together and do something
that's why
for the unhoused.
That's why we need to make we need to make some of these guys
muted, X. It's the
That's why we need to start dragging, and I don't mean this in a bad way. Please trust me. Don't anybody criticize me for this, but I mean this in a very happy, metaphorical way. We need to, Steve and Keith, to get down there for me and start dragging some of these folks out of these tents, and we need to make them into fucking rock stars of activism. I mean, some of the connections that we have just in this room right now, me, Mark, Glory, you, we can literally take, maybe every person we get won't be a hit, but I guarantee you there'll be a character. We'll find them and we'll make him into a rock star, and we'll put just the light of God, the light of the whole world on one encampment at it, that encampment for me, and then that's how you do it for others who want to help. That's how you do it. If you've got a platform, one encampment at a time, make them into rock stars. Make their, what they used to call us at the county sheriff's department? They called us the Palestinian situation. I'm not even fucking shitting you. What have we been talking about all day? That was the running joke amongst the deputy sheriffs, and I challenged somebody who was actually sweeping on the steps of the courthouse during that one brief little bit. But they called that sweep out on the courthouse steps that we called Peace Camp 2010, they called it the Palestinian situation, right to our faces.
Oh yeah.
So
they train with the IDF. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not surprised that because the same tactics that the IDF used, the same counterterrorism measures that are used by the IDF are given to American cops. So it, like, the association between activists here to Palestinian activists over there, very much makes sense.
and I just want to say on my behalf, brownie points to my favor for local Santa Cruz people who know if they're listening to me or listen to this and I'm talking directly to them. I just want you to know this is a story that didn't make it in my book and that I've only told a couple of times and really hasn't gotten out. But I want you all to know that there was a bit of a drama that happened to me just after I crossed into Canada. Hey, can you guys zip it? I'm screaming. Thank you. No, it's not optional. No, really.
So they actually start talking back suddenly, right?
I know.
Right after I crossed the border into Canada, I released a big press release. Everybody knew it was a very public thing when I sought exile initially in Canada, but it was just very, very shortly after I got to my first safe house, and Jay Lederman, my attorney, contacted me. I think many people who are watching the show are familiar with Jay. He's in the movie as well, but he contacted me, and apparently Santa Cruz County. I almost got to. It's so very difficult to tell the story because it's so hysterical, so sad, and so ridiculous. But also, I think will show you guys that I never really did abandon you. But they came to Jay with an offer, and they're like, Jay's like, you understand who he is, right? I mean, and they're like, oh yeah, we don't care about any of that cyber shit. We're talking about something different. We'll make him a deal. We want to settle these state charges. He pleads guilty by a signature. You don't even have to show up in court. He just signs a piece of paper, and he swears to never, ever, ever again sleep on the courthouse steps. They had it written just like that, guys, word for word. We'll never sleep in protest on the courthouse steps again. And they would wipe clean the state charges, and so, not that it matters, because, but I would never face those charges, should I ever come home. I turned them down flat with a fuck you. Because if I go home, I'm sleeping on them fucking steps again. You can goddamn well tell. I don't care if I got a mansion in Santa Cruz. I'm sleeping on them fucking steps every fucking night. You'll find me there. You know what I mean? I might have a nice air mattress and fucking a little alarm clock next to me and everything, but I'll be, because I got money now. But I'll be sleeping on the courthouse steps. Okay, guys. So, I said fuck you to them, and those state charges still are pending. Should I ever return to Santa Cruz, the very first thing they will do is arrest me on those charges, and according to the law, I face 2 years flat in prison. My guess is they'd make me do almost all of that, to be honest with you. They're so pissed off at me at this point, you know what I mean? So yeah, I just wanted people in Santa Cruz to know that fuck you. No, I'm not promising nothing. I don't know. I'm pretty certain I'm never coming home. But if I do, I'm coming straight back to Santa Cruz. They'll have to put the bracelets on me with live streamers streaming in the airport because I'm coming straight back to Santa Cruz. I'm not done with this at all. This ruined my life. This cost me everything. So yeah, it won't ever happen, but in any case, just so you know, I still have a warrant out for me in Santa Cruz, and I'm very proud of it for sleeping on those courthouse steps so many times.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's like multiple charges. I think I have 13 counts, guys. No joke, 13 counts of sleeping on the courthouse steps. Night after night, I was going to jail. Night after night.
13 counts of sleeping.
Yep, night after night. I was giving interviews to the media. You can see the footage there's footage from Peace Camp in the movie, guys. They actually included Peace Camp in the movie. How about that? They got the dome. Remember the dome, guys? Remember Steve? Remember the dome? The defense of the dome. The defense of the dome. It was almost like a separate documentary in and of itself, defending that stupid geodesic dome we put up. And yeah, it's in the movie, dude. It's all in the movie. They got a whole bunch of shots from Peace Camp and put it in the movie. They got me talking to ABC News, giving an interview on the front lawn of the courthouse, and saying, so what? They found one little shit. Do you know how many dog shits there are in this lawn? They went out there and found one little pile of human feces. One shit. I made him go out there and show it to me. And I'm standing, you can see me I'm standing here in the grass. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Do you know how many pieces of dog shit?
You could tell.
Well,
you could tell.
Dude, it was kind of obvious. I'm sorry, but there are some things that don't go down well or come out well, right? And so, especially when you're in a protest and you're eating anything you can get your hands on in a protest, yeah, okay, that's whatever. Fair. Somebody had an emergency. We had a porta-john. I pointed it to the fucking news crew. I said, there it is. We rent one. We've got a porta-john. We pay for it. It's right there on the sidewalk. You know what I mean? The kid maybe somebody couldn't make it. Who the fuck cares, man? You know how many dog shits are on this lawn right now? You know what I mean? Give me a break, man.
You know how many people have had sex on that lawn?
Yeah, in Santa Cruz, what the fuck does that prove, right? There's needles everywhere, everything. It's Santa Cruz, right?
Right?
It is what it is. So, I don't know.
You put a blanket down, but
they came to us again and again, but I got video footage that I did hand over that I think made it into the movie. There was one Irish girl who came all the way from Ireland. She was literally the most inspirational character for me in that protest. Of course, as is my want, I was one of the most inspirational characters to a lot of other people in that protest. But for me, it was this Irish lady. She was about 21 years old, absolutely, hate to say it, one of the most beautiful Irish princesses I've ever set eyes on. Beautiful little girl, about 21 or so, I want to say, years old. And she had heard about the protest over our Twitter outreach and other media outreach that we were doing from that encampment. All of that shit was very, very new. We did have some reach, and she heard about it and flew all the way to Santa Cruz, traveled by bus from San Francisco down to Santa Cruz. Walked into the encampment, said, who is kind of like semi the boss around here? And everybody pointed at me, of course, and she literally marched right up to me with this incredibly determined grimace on her face and said, I've just flown all the way to Ireland. Tell me how I get arrested. That literally the first sentence out of her mouth was, how do I get arrested? And we saved her until the end. She was kind of a star. And there's this beautiful moment where we told her, we went to her and we consulted with her and we said, we got a lot of media coming tonight. We'd like to put you on the list. And she stood up, and I, honest to God, I was laying down underneath her, filming her, this shot. So when you see it in the movie, it's actually me shooting it from my phone, and I'm in a sleeping bag at her feet, literally at her feet, filming this. And she stood up with a look on her face that just sent tingles up my spine. It was everything all at once. It was determination. It was resignation. It was sadness that it could possibly come to this. It was all of it, and she expressed it so well in a microsecond, as she, with the more grace than I think I've ever seen any human being get arrested, as she stood up and put her hands behind her back. I mean, you really felt like she put a lot into that. She put a lot into that moment, and she wasn't able to afford to do it a lot of times like us. It was it for her. She came all the way from fucking Ireland, and I have never been more moved by a young person protesting ever, because I was just physically so close. I had known her for days as she had been in the encampment, and she rolled up her sleeves. She wasn't scared of nothing. She went on the delousing detail, where we had to go take the blankets and get rid of the bed bugs that all the homeless people had in the protest. She was fucking, she didn't fucking care, and she was young, and she, but wow, when she stood up, the only thing that came to mind was the legends of the Irish queens. And the instant thought that flashed in my mind is, I'm filming a fucking queen. I'm literally filming a Celtic queen right now. And she was just amazing. And I think that even the cops were stunned. You could see them kind of putting their hands back from her, almost as if, and I'm not even joking, guys, like there was an aura around this girl. And I don't know how well it was captured. Phones back then had horrible, definition and shit, even just that many years ago. But what a moment, and they put it in the movie, and that was Peace Camp 2010. That was that resistance that was the actual single locus of, Commander X becoming Commander X, all of it, really, and it still persists there. But there have been some people who have really put it on the line, people who have gone so far and above the Call of Duty, so far and above anything that you could ask a person to do to help another person, to help in Santa Cruz, that it was really amazing. And so much of that, in part because of me and my involvement with Anonymous and bringing Anonymous into that sort of mindscape of those people. A lot of people never even thought about media and stuff like that. It was kind of the first time you ever heard in Santa Cruz of like somebody setting up a Twitter account was for Peace Camp 2010. That was very new. That was innovative. So I was able to bring stuff to the table that was stuff nobody had maybe completely utilized in the past, and we were able to make a big deal of it. But I'm so glad we caught that footage. That was really bespoke it all. There's some other amazing footage of like that wonderful old attorney who used to defend us. I can't remember his name now. Fuck. It's awful because he's my friend too. And if he's listening, he's going to be so sad. But running around yelling at the cops and cussing them out. And so many people, from legitimate people like, housed people who have lived there for generations in Santa Cruz, came out to berate the cops and to stand with us as we stood night after night, guys, for that. That went on for 60 days, guys, before we surrendered. We moved to City Hall and then surrendered at City Hall and broke the camp down. But we lasted for 60 days, and people went to jail every fucking night. And it was actually very planned. We had a list. It was part of what we did every morning, along with the delousing of the blankets, was to decide who was going to get arrested the next night. And all they had to do was lay down under a blanket, and they went to jail. Literally, we put a sign next to them to prove the point that it was protest, and then they went to sleep and they went to jail. And it was literally, in a weird sort of way, the dumbest protest I've ever been involved in my life, in that sense, because it just became a meat grinder. It just and then we started to get more transgressive, chaining ourselves to doors and stuff like that, because eventually you just get shitty about a situation like that. Both sides did. The cops did as well as us, and so it ended kind of nasty and violent, and we felt like we had to surrender because of that. So, but for 60 days, enormous amounts of us were being processed through the county jail at about as fast as they could do it, because none of them actually wanted us there. The people that run that jail don't want fucking a bunch of protesters in their jail. They've got bigger problems in Santa Cruz. Trust me. In their criminal justice system, they've got bigger problems than a bunch of fucking hippies. So it's really the last thing that the jail personnel wanted, and the sheriffs, but they were being, again, ordered from above by these oligarchs who are the real problem in Santa Cruz. The real thing that you need to get to change that are a handful of people, the 1% in Santa Cruz, who have managed to lock it all down. And they've been quite successful at it, trying to recreate the world in their image, which is a world free of people like us, so.
You're muted, Steve.
Don't feel bad. I've been doing that the whole show.
Our good friend P, who's on the ground in Los Angeles at a pro-Palestinian protest. The LAPD is signal jamming. They've got like both points of egress and ingress into the protest cordoned off. They're and there's still people like showing up for this thing. Still people there are hundreds of thousands of people in the street in London, in DC, in like every major city.
I just want to point out too. I just want to point out too. This is very new, guys. I'm sorry. I'll argue historically with anybody, but this is a very new turn of events, because if we end up with what I think it's going to be, like millions and millions of people marching from New York to fucking Frisco, like Iraq war style fucking scale of things, like we saw during the protests then. If we see something like that happen again in the USA, that's completely new. The Palestinians have never seen that. It's always managed to be able to be tamped down by the Zionists up until now, to just a few scattered. Everybody ends up looking like extremist kind of protests, right? If we actually get people, and this grows, marching in the streets, this is a whole new dynamic that has, to my mind, my way of thinking, not really existed at scale before. It's a real change, and it shows what Glory was saying earlier, that the narrative has really changed. It's not what it was when me and you were growing up like a kid. You didn't criticize Israel or you got fucking killed. I mean, that was that. I mean, you took a bullet, eventually if you got loud enough about it. I mean, but it just wasn't done in polite company. And now we've reached this point where, wow, we could actually see this happen. We could actually see millions of people in the streets, even briefly, supporting the Palestinian cause. That would be, to my way of thinking in the history of protest, that would be a sort of a unique turn of events and something to pay attention to.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I'm on a bit of a more hopeful note, as of today at least. So, yeah.
Well, I think it could be a big deal. It could be one component in making this stop, and I really feel visceral about it. I feel like the goal always has to be to make it stop. None of us are going to solve the Middle East peace problem, and it's unfortunate because maybe some of us could probably get a Nobel Prize for doing it if they'd let us, but we're not going to be allowed to do it. So really the only choice is, in my mind, always been from day one of being involved in this kind of conflict, is to make the bombs stop, just make the killing stop. And that's all about stopping Israel. The Palestinians are more than willing to stop any time. So it's really all about stopping Israel from dropping the bombs, and that's I really feel like anything that accomplishes that at this point is almost kind of fair game, especially cyber media wise, propaganda wise. But I really feel like the narrative has changed in ways that, as a kid growing up, I grew up in the Cold War, guys. I grew up before the wall fell. I mean, I sat there as a teen watching them fucking tear the wall apart with sledgehammers on television. I'm serious. I mean, this is.
I was almost a teen.
This is new territory, man. We're in new territory of empowerment. If people feel in America like they can march by the hundreds of thousands for the Palestinians, and I see it trending that way. I see these protests trending in a direction that's remarkable. I really hope it continues, and I think everybody might want to consider dropping everything they're doing to get to one, because you could be part of making that trend and making that grow. It seems to me to be, it could be, like I said, an unusually potent form of street protest, only because of the historical uniqueness. The pundits and people who talk about it will not be able to help but talk about that aspect of it, that this sort of support visually that we can see is brand new. And so, yeah, I mean, this is a big deal. These protests are a big deal. My hat off to the LA guy if he's watching. If not, whatever. But hat off to everybody who's going out to do it. And if it's safe, I'll try to do it. If it's safe, I'm sure they're happening in Mexico City right now. If it's safe, I'll get to them and stream them right here on this channel.
They're going to be happening in Florida tomorrow, which I'll be on the ground for. Last time I was on the ground for a pro-Palestine event here in Broward County, we almost got ran over by a car. So we'll see how it goes this time. But I mean, I just really hope people come out, because it's important, especially here in such a Zionist haven, that we show up and show out and really make a point to stand in solidarity. So.
Well, so then I think it's safe to say that this is like I said, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is now that things are a little bit more relaxed. As long as I can pass muster on the security thing, I'll go find out what's going on in Mexico City. I don't need to speak Spanish to buy a Palestinian flag off a very grateful street vendor. I'm sure there's plenty of them selling Palestinian flags for something like that. That's something Mexican people are good at, providing that kind of support, and so I'll buy myself a Palestinian flag and march and stream, and we'll do our part. I really just feel like it's worth at least one shot. It's worth one cheap ass bus ticket to Mexico City to go check it out. And so I think everybody else should consider doing the same. We might actually be able to have a whole new tool that we haven't really, to my way of thinking, had before, and that's that kind of visible popular support specifically in the homeland of the United States of America would be, to my mind, kind of unique. Guys, we've come to the end of the show. I want to, first of all, I'm almost in tears to have my wonderful people here with me, Steve, Glory, and Mark. It was just icing on the cake, but wonderful, delicious icing, that they are also three of the best streamers in this particular genre that I am here with episode 1, stepping my little baby noob toe into tonight. And these guys are like the pros, but they're also my dear friends from years back in some cases. And I want to say that I couldn't have done this without you. I was really scared. I was really nervous. Again, a whole new media. To me, it feels very in your face. I feel like the audience is literally at the tip of my nose, and that's new for me. I know it's old hat for you, and I appreciate you guys being here and giving me that extra confidence to sort of push through. I hope it was a decent show for everybody out there watching us today, either live or somewhere in time on the archive and YouTube here at YouTube. I just want to say thank you for giving us your time and sharing some time with us. I think it was a great conversation. I feel it was somewhat interactive with you guys, and I hope that you'll continue to tune in. This is a thing now. That's the whole purpose of this, is to sort of throw the virtual bottle of champagne on the Starship X and see what we're going to get. But we're going to do this every week at noon Central Time, same time as this week. It'll always be a long show. It'll always be trimmed up then and archived on YouTube. YouTube will not be our streaming platform. That was a technical error on my part, which will be corrected well in time for next week's show. I think all the guys can vouch for that. I'll probably be doing that like right after the show gets over, just for the hell of it. But we'll be streaming actually on my Twitch channel, which is twitch.tv/CommanderXAnon. Also, the Twitter is something that I'm going to become once again very active on. My Twitter account is considered, including being my personal account, so you have to mind the doggy pictures because it is my personal account, but it also has become a count of some renown in the movement and a hub sometimes of some occasionally really good information. So it's worth a follow, and also if you want to come back and watch more episodes of X Speaks. Thank you again from the top of the show to everybody who donated to the Friends of X Committee Emergency Fund. The link, I believe, is somewhere on this YouTube page, and it's generally available. It's on my Twitch and Twitter, and other places. I hope that more people will step up and help with that effort. These folks have done a hero's effort of keeping me alive, but also allowing me to be active. So if you think that it's all significant that I've made a comeback, if you feel in your heart that it's all significant that I would try to produce this somewhat nice to look at and pleasant to watch show, then please consider that when you help the Friends of X Committee, that goes directly to them enabling me to be able to continue to be with you all in this fashion, in this forum. So thank you to those who donated, and please, if you haven't, give it a thought. It supports really me and everything that you see. So yeah, and that's it, guys. We're going to end with I think something really appropriate. It's a video, anonymous propaganda video, first of all, of that genre, but it has a really good music for our music guy out there. The one guy that got on Mark's show yesterday wanted to make sure I had music as is traditional for an X show. It's got a great song behind it. I want to tell the story really quick before I run it. I came over the fence, Mexican fence, And you see, I think everybody, a lot of people, and you will see in this video, you'll see the footage of me actually crossing the border post on foot with an upside down American flag over my shoulder. That day I was rescued from the desert by a team of activists who really were the proto Friends of X committee, but there were also some people who came from other countries and flew there to be in the desert that day. I was picked up by a black SUV. They had a very expensive camera, the length of a rifle, like it was really long, pointed at the border post where they thought or they expected where we had planned that I would cross. And they picked me up at about 5 kilometers, and that's where that footage was actually gathered. They then took me into the city that's right on the other side of Houston, and I forget the name of it now because I'm a little emotional, but they took me to the nearest Mexican city. We had hotel rooms, and I produced this video in about 3 hours to show the journey and as a sort of a trailer for what had until then been very, very top secret operation by Anonymous to get me safely into Mexico. Once I was safely in the hotel, and one of the ladies who was our driver in the black SUV, and is a very, it's too bad, but I can't acknowledge her. It's just not safe yet for her to be acknowledged. But she is a very famous activist, actually, in her own right, and she's got a very neat shtick and is a known quantity amongst our sort of genre, Occupy / whatever kind of, she's known quantity. But she flew down there to be the driver of a very dangerous mission. They went out into the desert not knowing whether they would be accosted by bandits, accosted by drug smugglers, human smugglers along that section of the border just west of Houston was a big problem, a big deal. So it was very brave of them. They got me back to the hotel. I produced this video in about 3 hours and put it out to the world. And I think that I want to close tonight with saying that there were about 6 people who risked everything, including continuing to risk their freedom, to have been involved in that final part of the operation where it actually required people to come to Mexico and perform very courageous acts that I think are like almost like shit you read in books and dramatic movies and shit, kind of heroism. And so my last shout out I think tonight will be to the operatives of Operation Golden Eagle, which was the secret until it was revealed by me that day, but by way of this video was revealed to the world that day. It was timed out, guys. It was interesting to close on this story. It was timed out to be on November 5th, and there's video in the movie, the documentary movie, of me actually having to wait. I was 1.5 kilometers from the border, and I had to hide in the bushes of the desert for a day because I was so determined to do it. And also that's when they knew I was coming over, so they weren't going to be there any other day anyway, so I was kind of locked in. But I was committed to actually doing it on the 5th, November 5th, Guy Fawkes Day, is the day that I came over the fence and released this video that you guys are about to see. Thank you once again to my wonderful friends. I don't know what to say except if you guys need me on your shows, just fucking ping me and I'm there in like 3 shakes of a lamb's tail. And we're going to close out with the video trailer, whatever you want to call it, propaganda video from Anonymous Operation Golden Eagle. And I'll see you all next week, I hope, noontime, Central Time, on my Twitch channel. We'll do it again, episode 2 of X Speaks. And I promise we'll get busy. We ain't going to fuck around. Starting next week, it's all about the revolution, guys. So tune in, but we'll still have some fun because I don't, as this song will prove, as this video will prove, I don't want a revolution where I can't dance. Fuck that. I'd rather die. So enjoy, guys, and I'll see you all next week. Thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in. Bye-bye.
it's all the same. Only the need for change every day. It seems we're stealing away. Another place where the beaches are so cold. You drive all night to get back home. I'm a cowboy on a steel horse. I'm wanted, dead or alive. Wanted, dead or times I sleep, times is not for days. People love me, go their separate ways. This time's utility.